Hello, good evening. Welcome to our transfer deadline day special on local TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm David Brindle, joined for the first hour at least by three fantastic guests. Johnny, Kai and Taran are here with me. Johnny, how are you feeling this transfer deadline day, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. We've actually done some business on deadline day and it's actually worked this time with Dan James. We'll obviously go on to it. But no, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Yeah, you're still quite scarred. I think Victor Orta said he was quite scarred still as well.
Yeah.
We'll get on to that. Kai, how are you doing, mate? Obviously, Cloud9 for you.
Yeah, I mean, completely different to when we did the Champions League, right? It's a complete opposite mood because that night I thought he was off to City, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that as well.
We certainly will indeed. And then Taran, a little bit more subdued for you and me, mate. How are you feeling this deadline day?
Yeah, I really looked forward to all the Liverpool transfers to realise that there was absolutely none. So, great start to the day. But good business all round. So that's the interesting thing.
Certainly no incoming transfers, just outgoings and a few different new contracts being awarded out, which we'll talk about. So what you can expect tonight basically is us keeping you across all the moves as they happen, having a chat about some of the bigger moves that have already happened throughout this transfer window. Obviously, we're going to talk about the 5 people that were on the graphic, unless you missed it. And we were just saying before we went on here, there was 4 world-class players. And then just Dan James just thrown in there. Sorry, Johnny. Johnny was trying to say how's Messi found his way onto that graphic. Yeah. To be fair, I did put him in the middle.
Yeah, he was the biggest on there.
Yeah, and out of all the people that you can see on the background right now, Dan James is the one. Just a little bit of, side eye action, a little bit of nose. You can see it. Anyway, so yeah, we'll take you all through all those things. We've also got somebody keeping across everything for us who'll join us every half an hour or so, and we'll just bring him in now. Good evening, Andy. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good, mate. It's always an entertaining day to be a Newcastle fan.
It certainly is. So, Andy, you'll be keeping us across everything that's going on. I'm loving the Ronaldo and Mbappe shirts in the back, by the way. Only just clocked them. So you'll be keeping us, as I say, across everything that's going on. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of everything that we can kind of expect to happen this evening and stuff that has maybe already happened?
Yeah, a couple of loan deals. Lookman's gone to Leicester from Leipzig. Got Sol coming in, which is a massive one from Chelsea from Atletico Madrid, which is rumoured to maybe trigger Griezmann going back to Atletico, but I can't see it happen myself. Maribas went to Leipzig from Barca, and is there a better relationship than Rafa Benitez in Salomon Rondon at the minute? Rondon's apparently very close to going to Everton as well.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on there. Obviously, Rafa loves an ex-player already brought in. Andros Townsend, of course. Andy, thank you. We'll see you again in roughly 25 minutes or so to keep us updated with everything that's going on. Right, let's start tonight. There's only really one place we can start, and that's Nat Phillips signing a new contract. Not really joking. Of course, it is the biggest deal of the transfer window is of course Cristiano Ronaldo returning to Manchester United. It looked a little bit iffy for a moment there, like he was going to go to Manchester City. Kai, I'll come to you first on this one, being a Manchester United fan. We spoke in the week on the Champions League draw, and you were pretty dejected at the thought he was going to go to Manchester City, as you'd expect. How's your mood changed now?
Yeah, I still won't believe it till I've seen him in that United shirt. I don't think it's
even with the quotes coming out on Instagram.
It's just for you, Sir Alex. But once I see him in that United shirt, that's when the full excitement happened. But like you say, on cloud 9, I can't believe it. I never thought I always like to hope I'd think to see him in a United shirt again. I never thought I'd see the day. And it looking like he'll probably even retire at United. He's signed a 2-year contract until 2023, and then potential year for an extension. So that could eventually mean if he wants to go on to his coaching, potentially coaching United in the future. Who knows? But yeah, fantastic signing. It's not something we needed, but like Gary Neville said on Sky Sports, if there's a top player like Harry Kane or Ronaldo going for sale, United need to be in for him. They knew that Cavani was going to go, and there's even talks of him going today, actually, in the next 12 months, and potentially even Martial. They need to be in for that striker. They haven't got a striker right before the Simon Ronaldo who could probably get you 20, 30 goals a season, and now they've got him in there. And United have got some creative power up front now. I think it's arguably, I might be a bit biased here, but it's one of the best in Europe, I think.
No, he's finished, mate. He's finished. No, of course, it's a fantastic move for Manchester United, for Manchester United fans, and of course for the Premier League. And we'll be interested to see whether he gets his number back, because that's his brand, isn't it? That's his whole thing.
I think he will. I think he will.
There's a lot to go on, though, isn't he? Cavani's got to give his number up, and then he's got to get number 21, which Dan James.
Yeah, apparently he's taken the number 21, which he wears at Uruguay. So, and the Premier League have listed him as the number 7. So, we'll see.
Okay, we'll see what happens with that. Johnny, in terms of the Ronaldo deal, do you think United have got a good deal from it for the 36-year-old?
They just earned the money back through Dan James anyway. So yeah, they've got
and a bit of pocket change, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. No, they've done well with that deal. It's like we've just said, it's fantastic for the Premier League to bring him back. I think it's what Man United fans needed. This season was a massive test for Ole to see could he get a trophy under their belt. But with Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to his home, it's just going to lift the atmosphere around Old Trafford. If it wasn't lifted already, they've had 2 wins and a draw in their opening 3 games. They've started the season well. It's going to be fantastic for the Premier League. I've already sort of heard enough of it, to be honest. Everywhere is just talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. I was saying earlier on the Box to Box podcast, did check that out, by the way. I was saying, he's literally everywhere. And you could almost be talking about Sheffield United completing Morgan Gibbs-White, and they'll somehow find a link to Ronaldo. It's blown up everywhere, but it's great for the Premier League. Great to see him back, but hopefully he doesn't do anything against Leeds. Cheers, Cristiano.
Yeah. I was going to say, if we beat you 5-1 without Ronaldo, Varane and Cavani, what
I was going to ask that.
The thing is,
next time?
In the 5-1 and the 6-2, Dan James was playing for Man United. So on the reverse, we'll be fine.
Did he score as well in the 6?
He did in the 6-2. Yeah. He nutmegged Meslier. So yeah, could be interesting.
Got some making up to do for that then. Funny you mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White. Wolves fan Robbie is across Everton Wolves tonight. He said we want a centre mid. Also, let's loan one of our centre mids out. Morgan Gibbs-White has gone out to Sheffield United, which could be a decent move for him. Thank you very much, Robbie. Taran, for you, as a Liverpool fan, are you concerned that Manchester United have signed Cristiano Ronaldo? And, is that a threat to Liverpool's title chances or anyone else's title chances?
Yeah, but the Man United have. I don't think so. But, I think Ronaldo is unreal. We know how good Ronaldo is. And I think we know how much of a concern that is for the Premier League. But also we know how influential that will be to the Premier League and what that'll bring to, in terms of commercial value, in terms of quality as well. So it's a big signing. It's frustrating as a rival fan to say, well, we don't have Ronaldo in our but we bring so much league. It's a shame that we've got. If you want to play against, need the players there as well.
Okay, we're having some trouble there with Taran's line. I'll just take him out for just a second.
Sorry, David, just to interrupt. It's just been confirmed in the last 38 seconds that Cavani will be staying at Man United.
Okay.
This summer. So,
how are you feeling about him staying then?
I'm happy with it. I think he's a striker who played well last season. He was incredible for his last season. The question is whether he wants to stay or not, because there was a lot of talks of him wanting to go back to South America, or even he hasn't settled well in England. And if that's the case, if he doesn't want to be there and he's only there for another year for his contract for the money, then do you want to play like that around the club? I mean, for him, you're looking at it and you're thinking, you've seen Sancho, Ronaldo, and Varane come in. You're thinking, actually, maybe United are building something. They might win something this season, but we'll see. We'll see. It's whether he'll give up the number 7 as well. Now with him confirming he's staying, that's the other issue that's aroused.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens there. Let's move away from Ronaldo, but not too much from Manchester United, because obviously, Johnny, I can see the smile on your face already. Dan James he went the long way round, but he's finally a Leeds United player. What's the mood from Leeds United fans this evening after it was confirmed?
I think we're all happy that he signed. Obviously, it's 2 years in the making now. I think the only concern for Leeds fans is the price tag. I think it's £25 million, but when you compare that to Buendia, Willock, who have all been signed for more and similar prices, I don't think we can really have any complaints. He's playing for Manchester United. I know Kyle will obviously have a word to say on him, and I don't think Manchester United fans have been too impressed with his actual ability. No one's doubting that he works hard. But he's playing in a side who are full of world-class players, Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Varane. He's going to not look as great. I think he suits Bielsa well. Bielsa's had him on his radar for years now. January 2019 was when we saw he had a file named Dan James in the Spygate press conference. So we know he's been tracking him. I think he could be the potentially missing piece of a jigsaw because they haven't started the season too well. We can add a bit of flair, energy to the side, and who knows? I guess the only concern for Leeds fans is that price tag, but I think it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, price tag is quite big, but at the end of the day, you pay what you need to pay for a player.
Yeah. It's a 5-year contract as well, so you're also paying for that as well.
Of course. That's where the money goes. Taran, we'll have another go and see if we can hold out. And I know the feeling. My connection does this all the time, just when it's needed. Never fails. You're looking a bit better there, though. I don't want to jinx it, but you are looking a little bit better. So I was just going to ask you basically about Dan James. What do you think of the move? Do you think Leeds have overpaid? And in the grand scheme of things for Manchester United, I mean, that's a lot of money that they've made, considering Ronaldo would have paid for himself in shirt sales, really.
Yeah, I think it's a really good signing for you in terms of getting money back into the club. I think that's positive. I think he's ideal Leeds player. I think he's a Rafinha, everything. I think Leeds look for him sort of fingers, and that's quite positive.
Yeah, definitely jinxed it, didn't I? Yeah. I did. Sorry, Taran.
What he said there was Dan James is the next best thing and he's going to be fantastic.
No, he didn't. No chance. So I'll come back to you, Kai, with this one, because obviously another incoming at Manchester United, you maybe would have liked to have got rid of one. I was going to get rid of him when we threw to you, Kai, but he's jumped the gun. He's made us look a bit unprofessional, but it's okay. It's okay, Taran. I'll let you off. In terms of the squad itself, where does Jesse Lingard fit in, and is he the one that maybe Manchester United would have liked to have moved on?
Yeah, for me, it says a lot about Lingard. I think there's obviously been an issue there why he hasn't gone to West Ham. He fit in so well last season. It looked almost certain that he was going to go for around the fee of £30 million. And then they've gone and signed some unproven player who hasn't proven himself in the Premier League from the Russian league, which I don't understand. For me, I mean, it must be Lingard. For me, that's the only thing it could be. Lingard saying that he doesn't want to go, or either that or West Ham don't want him. It's Lingard's obviously the issue. Why United trying to keep hold of him, or even, I can understand why they're not loaning him out for a season, because he's only got a year left on his deal. And if you do that, then you have to sign him on a new contract, and United really don't want to do that. But in terms of game time this season, I mean, Ollie said this week in a press conference, the only reason he didn't start against Leeds is because he got COVID. And you're thinking you're going to start Jesse Lingard in that squad. And it's, I might be being a bit biased because I've seen the Jesse Lingard at Man United and what he's played over the years. Yes, he's scored some important goals for us, like FA Cup final and that one against Palace. But for me, he's never been good enough. He always seems to have an impact on the dressing room as well. Roy Keane slandered him and Rashford when they were together because they just come out and look childish. They look unprofessional. Whether that's their intention or not, who knows? But I mean, for me, yeah, I don't see any room for Lingard in that squad. I think he'll end up going on a free at the end of this summer. End of next summer. But yeah, for me, why they haven't got rid, they're gonna have to pay his wages for another season. He might be a decent backup to Bruno, but you've got Pogba in that role who can do that as well. So you don't really need Jesse Lingard to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, do you think it's just a case that Manchester United were asking for maybe a little bit too much money? Because you look at West Ham, who were clearly interested in him, but then they've gone out on deadline day and signed somebody else, which basically ended the chances of Jesse Lingard moving to back to East London. Do you think, as I say, Manchester United's value was just too high and nobody was willing to meet it?
I think it might have been. He obviously performed so well with West Ham, got them into Europe. was unfortunate not to be taken up by England. He had a fantastic second half of the season. I don't really know what's happened there. It might be that Manchester United are valuing Jesse Lingard too high. I think there is a good player in there. We saw it with West Ham. There's a new lease of life in him. He looked like a completely different player. I don't watch him week in, week out like Kai would have done. And obviously, he's seen the lows and the high points of Jesse Lingard. But West Ham fans have seen a fantastic player. So I feel like West Ham would have wanted to pay because, especially, like you say, they've now signed an alternative for him. But their squad almost seemed worse and had less depth without Jesse Lingard going into this season, especially that now they're going to in Europe as well. I don't know why they wouldn't have wanted to sign him. It could be like a case with Newcastle and Willock. They were, had to wait to pay the sort of 28, 29 million pound fee that Willock was made for. So whether it is that Man United are being greedy and asking for a bit too much money, but I think you've got to look at the player as Jesse Lingard. He seemed so happy at West Ham, a different person. You just hope it doesn't really ruin his career now that he looks like he's going to be staying and probably not playing.
Yeah, definitely. It's,
the only thing the only thing I have about the price tag is they paid. If United were asking 30 million, they paid 30 million for. Who did they sign from Moscow? Was it Fernandez? Not Gedson Fernandez. No, it was. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But
yeah, I can't remember. His name.
They paid 30 million for him. So I mean, why can't they pay 30 million for Lingard if that was the asking price? That's what I don't understand. There's obviously been an issue there where Lingard's either said he doesn't want to go or West Ham will come out and say we don't want him. It's one of the two.
What would you value in that? What would you say?
Oh, me, get him off the books. Get him off the books. I mean, to be honest with you, he's got a year left on his deal. If United value him at 30 million, but the only reason United value him at 30 million pounds is because of his successful loan deal last season. If he didn't have that successful loan deal last season, they'd be wanting to get rid of him for 5 or 10 million because he's got a year left on his deal. But if you were that desperate to get rid of him, Ollie clearly has seen him in his plans. So, I mean, they're going to have to work around those plans. But for me, I'd probably put him at, like you say, 5-10 million. He's got a year left on his deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably quite low, I think. I see your point. You don't really rate him. I don't rate him either. I think he's done well for West Ham. But, I think United have probably seen him have a decent... Was it 6 months he was at West Ham? A full year?
Full year.
Was it a full year?
Yeah, I think so.
Doesn't seem like that. He's had a decent 6 months. Obviously, your value goes up when you've played well, especially in the Premier League. I think they've wanted to cash in, but they've held the nerve to try and make sure that they get a good amount of money back for him. Wouldn't surprise me if he got
English
a new contract.
As well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if he got a new
contract.
He's
a youth player as well.
Exactly. You want to make some money. You want to make some money. Yeah, he's still very young at the age
of
28.
Young, Lingard,
whatever he is. Kai, I'll come back to you. Were you surprised that he made it into the England squad?
Given the start of the season, potentially, yeah. I think it seems weird that he would potentially make it into the squad, and then Mason Greenwood wouldn't. Mason Greenwood started the season really well. He's won all of our points this season. You could argue, he scored the goal that put us ahead against Leeds when Leeds had just equalised. He scored against Southampton, which got us the point, and then he scored against Wolves at the weekend to win us the game. So to argue that potentially Greenwood should be in there over Lingard, maybe. Based off last season, for me it seems almost a bit like a pity inclusion that he didn't get in the Euros. He hasn't played since the Euros, but yet he's going to be he has played. He's come on as a sub, but he hasn't played well, and he's and he's been chucked in there. Yeah, doesn't really make sense for me. I think that having Jesse Lingard in the England squad, it's just a bit strange decision from Southgate.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course we will come back to the England squad because Johnny, I know you're itching to talk more about Mr. Bamford, I know it. No. So we will come back to it very shortly. But just before we do, let's also talk about another. I mean, it's been ridiculous, really, when you think about it. Arguably, the two greatest players of our generation, Ronaldo and Messi, have both moved clubs this summer. Johnny, I'll start with you for this one. What did you make of the whole Messi situation? Let's go back to when he was out of contract, and we were talking on the Euro podcast, all the three of us. Where's he going to go? Is he going to run out his deal? And we were all sort of like, he's going nowhere. Now he's a Paris Saint-Germain player. But what did you think at the time when the whole press conference is going on and he's crying? And what was your thoughts about that?
It didn't seem real. It also seems like a lifetime ago, considering what's happened with all these other transfer with Ronaldo and Grealish since then. It was so odd because when you think of Messi, you think of Barcelona. When you think of Barcelona, you think of Messi. He's like they go together. And when he was crying in that press conference, it was just so weird to watch. I think what else is weird is seeing him in a PSG shirt. Is he number 30 now as well? Which I mean, Ronaldo obviously wants that number 7 shirt. He wasn't too keen to push Neymar off the number 10 shirt at PSG, but I just think it was so weird to see him leaving Barcelona. We've seen before when he said, he wants to leave, he's going to leave. We thought that last summer. It was just, just to bring a bit of hype, maybe get a new contract, something like that. But when he actually left, it was just so weird because for all my lifetime, I've just seen him as a Barcelona player, and you may see that he's just going to end his career at Barcelona. I think PSG was probably like a safe option. There's not much competitiveness in Liga. I know they're saying that PSG didn't actually win the league last season. Obviously, he was linked to what Man City, as every player is under the sun these days. But going to PSG, decent move for him. But I would have just liked to see him stay at Barcelona, to be honest, just for that sort of loyalty, Messi factor. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems wrong, doesn't it? It seems
Yeah,
wrong in a different kit. Kai, was there ever any other place he was going to go to apart from Paris Saint-Germain?
I think there was a lot of talks. It potentially could go to City. We'll touch on their transfer window a bit. I mean, they've missed out on talent after talent this summer. But there's a few talks of him going to City. But I think the only place was the boring move. I think personally, I mean, it was a pretty standard move. You expect him to go there. He's going to win everything there. There's going to be no questions asked. And then there goes that debate of, can he do it in multiple leagues? Because even I probably could do it up front with that team in that league. I think with them forwards around me, I'd probably bag about 20 goals a season. But I think it was probably the obvious move, especially when he was pitching on holiday with them the week before it was announced.
Yeah, it was. I just don't see him. The only other place maybe he could have gone was potentially the MLS. I think he still might go there to Inter Miami.
Inter Miami with Beckham.
He's got something involved with the club, I think, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Johnny, I mean, is everybody going to be going PSG on FIFA now? Is it ruin the game a little bit, especially now that Mbappe might be staying?
They ruined the game for themselves ages ago, to be honest. But no, I think it will. Like Mbappe, Messi, Di Maria in that team as well, Neymar. We're talking just FIFA here. Everyone's going to be choosing PSG. Yes, I mean if they don't win the league this season, then Pochettino's got to take a look at himself. I think they've got to do something in the Champions League as well. That's also got to be their aim if they are to keep hold of Mbappe. But their squad is ridiculous. Like, on paper, probably the best in the world right now, maybe on a par with Leeds is. I don't know. It's ridiculous. So no, they've done fantastically well to get Messi, but there's pressure on them now to succeed. Definitely a lot of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely a lot of pressure. I've just had a little mini heart attack. I'm not gonna lie. It says Celtic signed Jota on loan.
Jota,
Thinking no. It says Benfica winger Jota. We've got Taran back. Taran, we're just talking about Messi going to PSG. What did you make of that whole situation? Hopefully the connection's better, but I'm not holding out too much joy.
Oh Lord, is it working? That's a positive start. No,
yeah,
yes,
go on,
okay,
go on. We've given it a whirl.
Yeah. Okay, I think Messi obviously going to Liga. It's probably done quite a bit for that league. We saw that was the first game that was widely watched by a lot of fans. So that says a lot about the league and says a lot about Messi as a player. So it's only positive for the world of football, and it's more than positive for the Liga itself. It's a shame he's left Barcelona, one-man club and that. But when you're the best player in the world, you can afford to go anywhere. And I think there was only one team in the world that would be able to afford him, and that.
We were doing so well there, and we just lost them a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
We got it pretty much right. I am quite gutted he's moved clubs. He's a Barcelona icon. He's an icon for all of us, isn't he? That he's been at Barcelona forever. It just seems so wrong.
I did think it was a bit excessive, like doing the tribute video. He's not died. He's not retired. He's just moved clubs.
No, it was.
I thought that was a bit.
Do you know what I'll also say is like that whole charade of him crying. If you want to stay that much, mate, you just drop your wages. You just say to Barca, how much do you need me to take? If it's 10 grand a week, it's fine. I'll take it.
I think,
but at the same time, it's his livelihood, isn't it? And he's not going to take.
But he's had his livelihood for what, 20 odd years, and he's probably making more money on social media than he is football.
Rich people get greedy, Kai, and they want more. This is what it is. So I don't believe all this charade. Go on, Johnny.
No, I think the tribute's all right. Like a video compilation. I think that's fine.
Video compilation.
He's done all right there, hasn't he? He's not been bad for them. He's done okay. He's done a decent job. I think the whole press conference thing is. I know. Obviously, we're not him. If you're like, I agree. If you want to stay at the club that you love, you would take £1 a week on what he's earning before. I think the press conference is nice because it's a proper way to say goodbye to the fans, I guess. And of course, he's going to be upset by it. I do know what you mean. I think the press conference is all right. It's okay for me. I don't mind it.
I mean, if it was like, I don't know, if Ginny Wijnaldum would have done it at Liverpool, you'd have gone, hang on a minute. What's going on here?
Troy Deeney should have done it at Watford.
He should have. He should have.
Definitely.
That's another deal. That's another deal that's happened today. And for the rest of the deals, or vast majority of them, we'll bring Andy back in. Hello again, Andy.
Hello.
Right. Give us the best news. Have Liverpool signed anyone yet?
In the last half hour, I've been made, eat my words, Griezmann now full agreement with Barcelona, apparently going on loan with a option to buy for 55 million. So that's a massive one for them. While Barca are looking to bring in Luke de Jong, and obviously they've lost Emerson today, and what's been a massive clear out for Barca as they're looking to free up wage space for Aguero. A few other moves going on. Jules Koundé to Chelsea's officially off, according to Fabrizio Romano, and Traore to Spurs is apparently unlikely as well.
Right, plenty going on there, Andy. Thank you very much. We will see you again in about another half an hour or so. Keep us updated. Keep an eye on the old tweet deck and that. Fabrizio Romano's Twitter page. Love it. Right. Let's stick with Paris Saint-Germain then. Taran, I'll come to you with this one because there's been a lot of talks around, and obviously people want to see Messi, Neymar and Mbappe play together. Mbappe looked like he was about to leave for Real Madrid. There's talks of him going everywhere on a free now. Do you think Paris Saint-Germain have been a little bit stupid in not accepting what's a ridiculous bid? Let's face it, for Mbappe, they were willing to pay like 160 million euros for someone who's out of contract in 12 months and in, less than 6 months, 4 months time could walk away for free. Do you think Paris Saint-Germain have been a little bit daft?
Yeah, I think Sky was talking about £200 million offer on the table that Paris Saint-Germain said now we'll have to leave it for a month or leave it for the rest of the season. So they are quite silly in the end, and it's a bit disappointing, I'd say, for Mbappe. He obviously wants to leave. So, yeah, disappointing for Real Madrid as well. But you can only hope that he does leave the club at the end because I think he needs to prove himself. He's still young, he's got time, but you've got to hope that he does move from league on.
Yeah, we're still struggling with Taran there, unfortunately. But Kai, I'll come to you. What did you make of this whole situation with Mbappe?
Yeah, a lot of money. Especially to say he's only got 11 months left on his deal. Yeah, hell of a lot of money to turn down. I think I saw an article, and whether you read that much into it, it's very clever business from Perez. I think he's come out and he's bid 160 million. He's risked that 160 million because he knows that Mbappe will think, oh, actually, Real Madrid really do want me bidding 160 million with 11 months left on my deal. So when it comes to January, he'll sign the pre-deal with Real Madrid because they knew how much they wanted him. Which, I mean, if that's the case, very smart business, very big gamble for Perez to take because PSG would have quite easily accepted that. And I think a lot of other clubs would as well. I know I would have done personally. But yeah, very, very clever business if that's the case, to sign him on the free contracts in January, to make him feel even more wanted than he probably already would.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's almost like they've sort of signaled their intentions early, just to let him know, look, mate, we're coming back for you in January. We're not really. They're probably secretly happy that PSG haven't accepted that, because it's half a waste of money, isn't it? Like, if you know you're going to get him in another 6 months, does it really matter? Especially with the news of Griezmann going back to Atletico. Well, saying that, Atletico won the league last year, so they could potentially be getting stronger.
Losing Saul,
isn't it? Yeah, true. But I mean, they've been shopping him for pretty much most of the window, haven't they? I mean, Liverpool have certainly been linked with him several times. Talon has just messaged me and informed me that his router has turned into a potato. In other words, his internet isn't working great, so that's no problem, mate. He's usually fine. It's usually me with the connection problems. But hey, you win some, you lose some. That's how it works. It's a bit sad, really, because I was going to have a Liverpool chat with Saran and get your thoughts as well. So you're both going to have to just pretend to be Liverpool fans, which I'm sure you're both going to be able to do with.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. Johnny, we talk about this transfer window, and obviously we've watched Ronaldo and Messi move on. In the next transfer window, are we potentially looking at the next two best players in the world are moving on? Haaland's release clause is allegedly 70-odd million quid. Mbappe potentially on a free. If that happens, PSG are just mental. How crazy is next year's transfer window going to be when we get round to it? And certainly with Mbappe, how many teams are going to be chasing him on a free?
It's going to be ridiculous. Like, obviously, you say Haaland and Mbappe, they all the links in terms of the Premier League, you just think straight to Manchester City. You do with Haaland, especially. Manchester United have obviously now got Ronaldo. You've also got to think Harry Kane may not want to stay at Tottenham. Obviously, they're top of the league at the moment, but doubt they're going to win the league. I don't know. If they don't do too well this season, Spurs, then Kane will probably want to leave again, and then, like you say, Mbappe and Haaland and all these other players, it's going to be fantastic. The last couple of deadlines we've had have been so boring. I think I was watching back actually, the one that we did in January actually. And there was just like lack of movement, and this always is the case. Everyone sort of hypes up deadline day for nothing, but this year, this whole transfer window has been fantastic. And next year could be even better. Haaland potentially, he's got Leeds links. Is there a chance he comes our way? I don't.
Come on, mate. Come on, mate.
He doesn't start, does he, John? I think Bamford
he doesn't start because Bielsa likes Bamford, and I like Bamford, so he starts for me. But no, next year's transfer will be fantastic. I think Mbappe, Haaland, Ronaldo, all in the Premier League would be a joke, an absolute joke.
It would. It certainly would. That would be ridiculous. It would be absolutely ridiculous. Johnny, Kai, even something I've just seen there that may be of interest to you is that apparently Manchester United have denied a late move from Everton for Donny van der Beek, who was affectionately nicknamed Donny van der Bench on the Manchester United podcast last weekend.
Yeah.
Is that a good move for him, or is that a good move for Manchester United to reject the idea of him leaving the club?
I think if you reject United, if United had come out and rejected that, I think accepted that, it would mean that United would have to go into the market for a CDM in the next few hours, which I don't think feasibly is possible. It's a position that United are weakest in. I think a lot of people know that. I think it's everyone knows that. Fred and McTominay really can't do it on their own. I think I said on the United podcast this week, I think, Van der Beek will play a big part this season. I think he'll, when he eventually gets his chance, I think he'll play that role quite well. All he needs him to, in that box-to-box midfielder, but holding just in front of that centre-back line, that Fred tried to play at the weekend and got bossed about by Traore. But yeah, I think Van der Beek will play a key role this season. He just needs his chance. If he doesn't get his chance, then he'll be gone. He'll be gone next summer because it's make or break for him this season, I think.
It certainly is. I just want to bring it back to what Johnny said about Bamford and Haaland. We've had Harry on YouTube tell us that Bamford starts over Haaland. Obviously,
it's not just me thinks it. Harry,
well, that when you've got Erling Haaland sat on your bench just in case Bamford doesn't grab you.
It's just in case Bamford gets injured. He's a decent person to bring on.
He's a good backup.
Yeah, we may send him out on loan for a bit of experience, but no, he's all right.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, mate. Stop getting yourself all worked up. Harry has also asked any Leeds news other than Dan James, obviously. Johnny, I don't know how much you're across this. I know you're a top Leeds fan, so you probably are. There's been a couple of bits and bobs of outgoings, particularly, hasn't he, in the sort of younger players. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, there has. I think Jordan Stevens has gone to Barrow. I think Robbie Gotts has moved on as well. I can't quite remember what club he's gone to. It's a shame for these under-23s players because they've done so well in the under-23s and then just that step up to the first team, they haven't quite made it. There actually talks after Dan James has come to Leeds, Helder Costa could be on his way out, a first-team player. Leeds paid £15 million for him in the summer of 2019. Just come up on Sky as well that he's in talks with Valencia on a potential move to Spain, which I think would be good for him. I think at Leeds, he's been here now 2 and a bit seasons. I feel for him because there is a good player in there. I just don't know if he suits the way Bielsa plays. And I think if Helder Costa goes out the door, I don't think many Leeds fans are going to complain. He's had many chances. He started last season well in the Premier League, but with the incoming of Rafinha and Jack Harrison doing so well, it sort of put him on the bench. And we've seen Somerville, who's a youngster, who many won't be familiar with, who seems to have taken his place above him in the pecking order in terms of wingers, and James coming in now as well. I think it's probably Helder Costa's time to move away, and it looks like we're in talks with Valencia to see him out going to Spain.
There's your Leeds roundup right there, spot on. I wish there was that much going on at Liverpool, but unfortunately,
Jordan Henderson's staying. That's all right.
Yeah, Jordan Henderson signed a new contract. Nat Phillips has signed a new contract.
Yeah.
Reece Williams has signed a new contract before going out on loan.
Some stars there you've got staying at your club.
It's boring though, isn't it? Like, you want to see people getting signed.
You brought in Canate early on in the window.
Very early on. Too early, if anything. Too early for entertainment purposes. Yeah. Great for Jurgen Klopp and the team.
Yeah, well, honestly, that Van Dijk and Canate partnership will be, it'll be unstoppable. I think it'll be a great partnership.
I was gonna say with them two starting, you got like Gomez, Matip's in a bit of action as well. Where does Nat Phillips actually properly fit in? I don't know.
He doesn't. So basically, I think what has happened is Liverpool have realised that they'll never ever get as much money for Nat Phillips as they would have in this window. But similarly to Jesse Lingard, Liverpool have probably expected a little bit too much money. They've probably put 15 to 20 million on his head. Nobody's going to be willing to pay 15 to 20 million for Nat Phillips. There was rumours earlier on that the likes of Burnley and Crystal Palace were interested in him. It was never going to happen. It was just never going to happen. So I think what Liverpool have realised is that to keep his value up, they've offered him a new contract because all of a sudden now your value gets bumped right up. You've seen it with Dan James going to Leeds. He's got 3 or 4 years still on his contract. It's going to cost you 30 million. So that kind of just keeps his potential transfer fee high. Not that we need to sell any more players. I mean, we've sold quite a few this summer and not really brought anybody in. I would have liked to have seen us bring somebody in, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Do you think you'll be saving your money for next summer with the likes of Haaland potentially floating about? Do you think?
I don't want to get into it because I'll get excited. I think I've mentioned this to you before about Jurgen Klopp and Mbappe's dad. I love that video where I don't know if you've both seen it or not.
No, I'm not seeing the video.
No.
Okay, so I've been quoting this video for weeks and months.
You can see him getting excited. Look, he's getting excited as it goes on.
Calm down. I hope it's true because I'm sure it's true. It's been a while since I've actually seen it. Basically, it's some sort of UEFA awards do. Klopp walks up to Mbappe and his dad, and usually when you meet somebody that you half know and you want to say hello to, it's a little handshake, maybe a little pat on the shoulder. How you doing? Klopp walks up to Mbappe's dad, whacks him on the face, and I mean whacks him on the face. Typical Jurgen Klopp fashion. How you doing, son? Gives him a big hug, gives Mbappe a big hug, and you're all just sort of like, it's happening. It's happening. And especially on a free, it makes far too much sense. But this is where it all goes wrong, because it makes too much sense, which means it's going to hurt even more when it doesn't happen. Isn't it though? It is, and then Haaland, the Haaland one is not going to happen for Liverpool purely because of the age and fees. He's going to command, Mino Raiola's his agent. He's going to
price himself out of a deal, isn't he? Raiola. It's ridiculous.
Raiola's going to want 15 to 20 million easy.
Yeah.
Haaland's probably going to get, if you include this contract, 50, 60 million over the course of 5
Didn't he
years.
say something stupid like 800 grand a week he wanted for Haaland, and then he wanted his own salary as well?
Exactly.
I saw that report.
Straight away, he's priced himself out of every club except for maybe PSG and Man City.
Yeah.
But even then,
again,
how
always
did they
comes
get
back.
around FFP?
It always comes back to City. It always comes back to City. Like they're the only ones who can do it. So I don't know.
It'll be interesting, as you say, as we've just said. It'll be interesting to see where both of them end up next summer. You know, we could end up seeing them both sign new contracts and stay a little bit longer. Mbappe certainly, I think, will. I don't see him leaving for free. There's no way.
I can see him going to Madrid. He's always wanted it, Annie, since a kid.
Absolutely.
I can just see it.
Absolutely, I think he will eventually go to Madrid. He's still young. They're both still young. But there's no way. There's just not a chance. The PSG arguably the greatest talent of the upcoming generation walk away for free especially after paying nearly 200 million euros for him.
Yeah,
there's just not a chance, is there? There's just not a chance.
Do you think didn't they sign him on a new deal with a buyout clause potentially?
Yeah, I think that could be one of the answers for. I do. They've got to understand that the player doesn't want to play for them anymore. Well, it's not that he doesn't want to play for them. He'd rather play for somebody else, let's say. So they've got to come to some sort of agreement where he's got to understand that he could potentially walk away for free. The ball's in his court, isn't it? So they've got to really lower their asking price for him to go. So you're talking like either way, they're probably going to lose out on a hell of a lot of money. They should have probably accepted Real Madrid's bid. Unless Mbappe's planning on signing a new contract and we all don't know about it. And it's just him trying to work his way, because we've seen that kind of with Ronaldo at City, Kai, where he was rumoured to be going to Manchester City.
Mendes played him like a fiddle. He played Man City like a fiddle, then Mendes. Played us all like a fiddle. I had me believe it was going.
What do you think about agents in football then? I'll come to you first, Kai. Obviously, the power is growing quite considerably, but it's not always as obvious. The power is. These rumours come out in the media, and I think they control a lot of that. What do you think about them, and what do you think about the money that they earn as well?
Yeah, I think it's a shift in power, isn't it? We've always seen it over the years. In the past, the power's always been with the club, but I think now the power's starting to shift to agents and the players. I think was it Guardiola came out this week and said that Ronaldo's one of 3 players in the world that could probably choose where he wants to play. It's not down to the club, and that's down to power of the player. Power of the player and the agent. I think George Mendes seems to come across well in the media. I don't know about what you two think of him, but he always seems to never have the negative press around him and never seems to be the one for the fees like Raiola. Raiola's always painted the one to be the villain. Like they're the two big ones, aren't they? Your Mendes and your Raiola, who tend to be your super agents, who tend to have signed all the big players. But the only downside I think to Mendes is when they start getting involved with clubs like Wolves, when they start bringing all the Portuguese players in from Wolves, because I think there's rumours that he's got ties in with that club, hasn't he? Which that's where the issue comes in, because that's when you can start moving players to clubs, regardless of whether you've got their best interests at the heart as well. Because I think that's when it starts to damage players as well. You've definitely seen it with Raiola, with Paul Pogba. It's damaged Paul Pogba's reputation because everyone now thinks that his attitude's bad. But whenever I've seen an interview from him, he's never said a bad word against Man United. He's never come out and said he wants to leave. He's never seems to be training badly. Everyone who knows him seems to come out and say that Paul Pogba has trained hard. He's a great example. And then you have his agent coming out and saying all this. And that's the issue, I think, with agents in football, is they shouldn't be the ones coming out and speaking for the players. They should be the one doing the business for the players. I feel like Raiola, for me, has got a bit of an ego. I think, it's a big ego flex that he's got Paul Pogba, and he's trying to make more money for himself by saying, well, maybe Paul Pogba's going to leave, like stuff like that. I think it's something that we're going to see more of in the future, because I think clubs will struggle to. Clubs will want to keep their best players, and the only way they're going to be able to keep their best players is by siding with these super agents and letting them have the power, I think.
Yeah, Johnny, what do you make of it all? Obviously, it's as I say, as Kai says, it's becoming maybe a little bit of an issue for how traditionally transfers have worked. What do you think of the future of football is with agents involved?
I think I agree with everything Kai said. I think they're there to get their own wage cut as well, aren't they? They force moves for players, like we've talked about with Haaland. His agent could almost ruin him getting a good move because he'll be demanding loads as well. Like we said, I was watching back the failed Dan James move, and Victor Orta was talking about how. Sorry, I don't actually purposely mean to bring it back to him, but he was talking about how complicated transfers are at the moment. With you got to get their club and the player's agent, and he was stressing how frustrating it is to work with the agents. And this was a couple of years ago. They're basically almost like a second player that you've got to hit the personal terms with as well. And like we said with what Kai said there with Wolves, I remember when they came into the Championship and then they had all these quality players, that was potentially down to Mendes. And we see with agents, they want the power. It's not all the time. It's not down to the benefit of the player, which hopefully that's not where it's going, and hopefully it stops, because I think it just ruins these deals for these players in their careers.
Yeah, you're certainly putting, as you say, moves in jeopardy. A good move like, Haaland going to, I don't know, anyone really, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Barcelona, Manchester United. I think maybe Manchester United and even maybe Real Madrid, Man City, PSG might be all right with that. But you're getting to a point where I just think, what are the other players in the dressing room going to think about, an Erling Haaland earning 800 grand a week like he says he wants? It's not going to be great for the dynamic of the dressing room, is it? And there's certainly, I don't know. We spoke about this on one of the recent Box to Box podcasts. You can go back and watch it and listen to it. Should there be a salary cap in football, which UEFA are predicting or proposing, I should say? I think something has to be done. Because otherwise, players have got, I wouldn't say too much power, but they've taken the power away from the clubs in the sense that they can command whatever sort of wage and transfer fee that they potentially would want. But we need to do something about it and just bring it back under control, because it's going to go. I mean, we made the reference that 10 years ago, somebody was signed for 30 million. Look at Van Persie, for example. This is the example I use. Van Persie was 30 million at the time, and everyone went, whoa, that's a lot of money. Liverpool signed Canate for 36 million this summer. Nobody batted an eyelid. It was just a normal standard.
It's probably quite cheap, actually, for a defender of...
Nowadays it is, yeah. Nowadays. Whereas back in then, I mean, I think we paid something like 22 million for Fernando Torres in 2007. And
Andy Carroll was 35 million. I remember, was it 35, 45? And everyone was like, wow.
Let's not mention that one.
Remember that? Was it also this summer as well? Is Harry Kane's agent his brother, Charlie Kane? I just remember him sort of stirring the pot a bit.
He's been sacked though, hasn't he? I think he's been
not
sacked.
Surprised.
Yeah. I just remember him stirring the pot with Kane and City and stuff, and it works fans up, and that portrays Kane badly in a way that he shouldn't be. I don't know. It's complicated, isn't it?
I'm not surprised. He's missed out big time on that deal. And just before we move on to sort of wrapping this hour up, has he missed the boat on it, Johnny? Is that his sort of, not his career over? Let's just get that right. But is that his potential to move on to Manchester City in a bigger club? Has he missed the boat now? Is he at Tottenham for the rest of his life?
Well, this is what I was going to say with Mbappe and Haaland. Mbappe and Haaland, if they do move next summer, and it's a big if they don't sign their contracts, say they then move to the Premier League, Harry Kane is not going to get a move. Daniel Levy is not going to get a higher price, I don't think, than what he would have had this summer. Harry Kane, again, if he goes on to have a similar season to what he did last year, top on goals, top on assists, that kind of thing, you can understand his price tag being there, but it's 1 year less on his contract. He's a year older. He's getting into his prime now, Harry Kane. He needs to get a move. For me, if he's going to move, he should have gone this summer. With City, he'd have been with obviously Grealish, Sterling, Bernardo Silva, Mahrez. If they go get Haaland, Man United have obviously got Ronaldo. I can't see him, if he's going to go in the Premier League, any other clubs that would want him. Chelsea have now got Lukaku. For me, it might just have to be going abroad. But obviously, if he wants to break Premier League records, win a Premier League, it might be now that he's, like you say, staying at Tottenham for the foreseeable.
Kai, what do you think on that one? Just quickly on Harry Kane. Obviously, moving to Manchester City would have not only finished their jigsaw, if you like. You hear that phrase all the time. It just gets stuck in your head. They need a striker. He potentially would have won quite a lot more trophies at Manchester City than he would have at Tottenham. Should he have moved, and should he have pushed further for that move, or what do you think of it?
I think the move probably would have been right for both parties. It seemed, like you say, it seemed to complete the jigsaw. It seemed to be the best fit. Harry Kane, experience in the Premier League, gets goals. City needs a striker. Kane wants to win trophies. City win trophies, as much as it pains me to say. Yeah, I think it probably would have been the best move for both parties. But, you say he should have pushed harder, but now he's found himself in an awkward position where he has pushed slightly and he's now stuck at Spurs. And for me, I don't see him going anywhere else either. I even next season, I can't see anyone picking him up unless City want to go back in for him. But then this Haaland on the table, why would you go for a year older Harry Kane when you could go for a year, more experienced Haaland? It's one of those debates. Whether Kane will get a move next season, who knows? We spoke about Liverpool's transfer window being terrible. Mention Man City's. Man City's has been shocking. They signed Grealish, but they overpaid massively for him, £100 million, and then they haven't got a striker in, and they seem to be playing Jesus out on the right now, so they don't actually have an out-and-out striker. I know there was talks of them bringing in that 6'7" lad from like League Two. I saw at one point. City's transfer window. They failed with Messi, they failed with Kane, and they failed with Ronaldo. For me, I think they've had probably a worse transfer window. They haven't paid. Liverpool haven't paid massive prices for Kanate, and a centre back's probably a position they needed. Whereas City have gone and overpaid £100 million for Jack Grealish, and it's a position that they don't really need. That left-hand side. I think City have had a dreadful transfer window, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Man United fan.
I needed to pinch myself for a minute there. That was a Manchester United fan giving Liverpool a little bit of praise.
Well, more credit than Man City.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I'll let you off, mate. I'll let you off. In the grand scheme of things, I just want to bring a comment in from Ben. Ben Ellis, looking forward to joining later as deadline approaches. Ben will be with us between 10 and 11. We'll be swapping over in the next hour, of course. We'll be saying goodbye, unfortunately, to Johnny and Kai. Excuse me. But before I do, I just wanted to get your individual favourite moment of deadline day. There's been so many up and down the years. And I know I've threw you on the spot, so I'll give you mine first. I think I don't want to steal anyone's idea, of course, but my favourite one probably has to be just Harry Redknapp hanging out of his window.
Do you know what I was? That's exactly what I was going to say.
I was trying not to pick the one you were going to say. Just he just kind of created this thing of. It was nice to see a manager because obviously we had Benitez at the time, who's very not like bad, but just like didn't really want to speak to the media. Everything was quite hush hush, and I just quite liked the way Harry Redknapp was like, "No, we're not signing anyone," or he's coming down for a medical and stuff like that. So I don't know who wants to go first, but fire away.
Ronaldo signed on deadline day, didn't he, today? So you could argue potentially.
What a cop out!
Walked into that one.
It was official today.
This is only really a niche Leeds reference, but I think it was 2000 deadline day, January 2014. You probably won't remember it, but Ross McCormack was Brian McDermott got sacked by Chileno, and then Ross McCormack went live to Brian Swanson on Sky Sports, did a phone interview on basically how McDermott had been sacked, and was like, "I don't know what my future holds now." He stayed. We then beat Huddersfield 5-1 the day later, and then McDermott got reappointed as manager the day after, and it was crazy. Like a player going on Sky Sports, talking just openly about his future. I remember him saying, I don't actually know if I'm going to stay. It was big for us at the time, but that was 7 years ago, and we were awful that season, so it means nothing in the grand scheme of things.
How times have changed at Leeds United.
I know. We can moan about paying over the odds for Dan James, but I'm just glad we're not where we were 6-7 years ago. So,
well, just before we say goodbye to both of you, Johnny, I did mention earlier on that we wanted to give some reaction to the England squad. I know, obviously, you done the Box to Box podcast earlier on today, and we will be showing a clip of that very shortly. I should have probably told you this before we started. Try not to say the same things that you did on that because it might look a bit daft. But
okay.
Now, what are you thinking about him obviously finally getting into the England squad? It was quite a long time coming, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I've tried not to say anything positive that I said about him a couple hours ago, but no, I think with him, he openly said it as well. He wasn't expecting the call up. He didn't finish the season particularly well. Hadn't scored in the opening couple of games of this season. He said he forgot that it was coming, but I think he only really got in. Ollie Watkins was injured. Rashford's injured. I said actually before, I'm surprised he didn't call up Danny Ings, but I'm just so happy for him. It shows exactly what Bielsa's done with Leeds. Calvin Phillips is in there, and it shows his improvement. He did fantastically at the Euros. Now Bamford's in there as well, and now Calvert-Lewin's injured. He is literally a backup to Harry Kane in the England squad. If you'd have told me that a year, 2 years ago, I'd have laughed at you so hard. But I'm just so happy for him. He's worked so hard for this moment. I don't know him personally, but I imagine he has. And yeah, he's done fantastically well. He's proved everyone wrong last season. And long may his stay in the England squad continue. He's going to be lifting the World Cup for England in Qatar in December.
We'll see about that. Well, obviously, we're going to hear a bit more about that now with the reaction to the England squad. Obviously, they play Hungary and then Andorra. Is that right? Coming up this week?
Yes.
So them games are coming up. We'll have reaction to that throughout the week as well. But thank you both for your time this evening, Johnny and Kai. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of deadline day in front of the television and obviously listening to this podcast. But we'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes with all the latest news from Andy. And of course, 3 new, wonderful, beautiful guests. I'll still be here as well, unfortunately. See you on the other side.
England go into this international break, 3 wins from 3 in World Cup qualifiers. I'll come to you first, Johnny. After the excellent European Championships we've had, obviously we got beat to Italy in the final. Do you think there'll be any mental hangover from that Gareth Southgate and his team will try to get rid of early doors?
I don't think so. I don't think there'll be a mental hangover. I think the squad just seems to be a bit different compared to other years. They all seem to be so together, and even though we obviously lost on penalties in the worst way possible in the final, we actually seem to came out of it all right, quite positive, still an upbeat mood. And because this squad is so together, a lot of them are quite young. We've kept the majority of the squad going into these batch of games. I think obviously they'll be disappointed, but I think with the crowd at Wembley as well, they'll give them all a positive reception. I think within the first couple of minutes of the first game, I think that sort of hangover will go out the window quite quickly.
What about yourself, Bernard? Do you like the Gareth Southgate regime? I know he gets a lot of stick, but what do you make of the England squad and how it's shaping up going into these next qualifiers?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, Southgate's a steady Eddie, isn't he? He's a steady hand at the tiller. But I think the thing is with this team as well, there doesn't seem to be any real clicks in it. They all seem to be, as you said, I think Johnny was saying there, they're all sort of together, and there's a lot of younger players, obviously, who sort of seem to have a good laugh and get on with it. I still worry about Southgate when it comes to the crunch, when it comes to the crucial elements of games. It's all right in these games these group games where the teams are not quite as good. But when it comes to those big games like the Italy game, where he sort of he doesn't give them free rein, he sort of clams up a little bit. So yeah, I'm still happy with it. They've got a young team, and sometimes those lads can perhaps work against Southgate a little bit in a way and be a bit more natural perhaps than he wants. But we'll have to see going forward, won't we?
Yeah, lads, for those both of you not aware, Johnny will be aware, but I'm a massive Southgate fan. You mentioned there about the lack of clicks within the squad, and I think that's key moving forward for England. We had the golden generation who couldn't perhaps put the differences aside going into these major tournaments. And like you say, we've got a young squad, and going into this next few years, it looks pretty bright. Jack, what do you think on the squad moving forward?
I'm very positive about England right now. I think we've got a nice young group who are really coming through and are developing each week. I like Southgate as well. I would sort of agree with the previous statement that Italy final was an England game I've seen before, in terms of it was basically a carbon copy of the Croatian game, wasn't it, from 3 years ago, in terms of we took the lead, we thought, hey, this is nice, we're beating Italy, it's someone good, and then, it all went horribly wrong very predictably. My slight concern with this squad is kind of in the forward areas, to be honest with you. Harry Kane's obviously been on his nice long holiday. Calvert-Lewin's dropped out today. I'm going to really upset Johnny here.
I knew this was coming.
I'm not the biggest Patrick Bamford fan. I'm sorry. Does that make me a bad person? I don't know.
I don't know. No, don't think so.
I would have liked to have seen Mason Greenwood start, because I think he's been pretty good when he's played down the middle for United this season. And just some other players who seem quite out of form. Bukayo Saka's obviously had a dreadful start at Arsenal. It's not entirely his fault. Jesse Lingard barely plays for United anymore. Raheem Sterling's not starting every week for City. There are issues, but having said that, we shouldn't have any problems in these next 2 games, really.
Hello, we're back, finally. That was quite a long video that I didn't realise it was that long. We are back with 3, as I promised, 3 wonderful, beautiful guests. We've got Scott and Callum, both Everton fans, and then Max, bottom right, Leeds fan. Scott, you've been on holiday. How was it, and how are you feeling? Now you're back for deadline day?
It was lovely, It was great to go. Really nice weather. Enjoyed the sun. Too much beer, too much food. But, it's good to be back. There's no place like home. Nice and fresh, ready to take my life on again and see what happens today.
Is there a thing as too much beer and too much food? I don't think so.
Not where me and you are concerned, mate.
Definitely not, mate. Definitely not me, anyway. Callum, it's been a while, mate. How are you doing? I haven't seen you since, it must be since maybe January deadline day last year.
Yeah, sort of, mate. Yeah. All sound, mate, yeah. Looking forward to this.
You look like you've got a bit of a tan yourself, actually. Have you been away?
Nah, not as lucky as Scott. Only 1 jab.
Oh, yeah. So, Max, obviously, Leeds fan. We're going to come to you very shortly, mate, and talk about the happenings of, the big signing today, which Andy will tell us about in a moment. But before we do dive into things, mate, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good, happy, hearts mended. It's all glued back together, ready to go. And then it's potentially about to get better as well. Who knows?
Okay, well, we'll ask you about that in a moment. But before we do, let's bring Andy in. Andy, it's we've got just under 2 hours until the deadline. What can you tell us about what's going on?
Well, it's been a relatively quiet day for Newcastle fans, but Newcastle are officially done. All they've done today is bring in a youngster from Mexico who goes by a similar name of a movie character from 16 years ago. So it's been an entertaining one for them. PSG are officially playing career mode already. They've signed Nuno Mendes with a 7 million loan fee and a 40 million buy option. Krul has just been announced going to West Ham. That's a loan deal with another option to buy. There seems to be a lot of options to buy going about today. Obviously with Griezmann as well to Atletico Madrid. And the biggest one really recently is Dan James to Leeds, which I'm sure you'll be happy to hear.
Definitely. Andy, thank you. We'll catch you roughly half an hour or so. Keep up the good work, mate. So Max, as we obviously mentioned there, 30 million for Dan James. We spoke a little bit about it earlier on with Johnny and, of course, Kai for both sides of the transfer. But from a Leeds point of view, you said your heart was mended. You've kind of told me how you feel, but tell me in more detail.
Yeah, it's good. It's all good. It's just good. Happy. Needed a little bit of something, little extra, because if you look at the Leeds bench at the weekend, you're sort of thinking we haven't really got anybody that could actually change the game or affect the game in any way. And obviously now with Harrison, Rafinha, and Dan James, there's 3 people for 2 positions, so that means it can only improve when one of those 3 comes on. It was Helder Costa in that 3rd position, and he's just thinking, no, he's had 18 months now on a short lead of, look, come on, you've got to do something now. I was at the Crew game the other night, and admittedly it wasn't a great performance until Patrick Bamford came on, and then we got the 3 goals. But we made him look very good. Helder Costa just didn't know. It got to a point where you could see the players were starting to refuse to pass to him. They sort of saw him, looked up, and then if there was nothing else on, it was like, right, okay, I have to give it to him because you're in the best position. But if there was another pass on, you could sort of see Calvin Phillips going, I'm just going to ping it to the other side because you're not cutting it anymore. That may be harsh. It might be a little bit true, but yeah, Dan James in there, definite improvement of what we've got, and hopefully we can get a win because we haven't had a win yet in the league, and I'd like one.
Yeah, that might come. Just what you were saying there about Helder Costa reminded me of Momo Sissoko at Liverpool once upon a time. We played Marseille in the Champions League, and he was that bad. As you say, it was visible that people stopped passing the ball to him. He was absolutely woeful. Tell us a little bit more about, you were talking about a minute ago, it might be getting better. What are you hinting at there?
Yeah, so Helder Costa, Valencia are interested in a loan for Helder Costa. So I think that might be that will probably be the only thing left for Leeds to do. Bielsa, he likes to keep a small squad. He likes to keep 2 for every position. So in the wingers, he'll have Dan James, Jack Harrison, and Rafinha. And then there's a young lad in the under-23s called Somerville. So he's been on the bench a few times. And so he looks like he's going to be taking that 4th spot, and Helder Costa may be getting out. And if you say that's not very, it's not much showing much depth. If one of them goes down and then it's not very experienced, this is just Bielsa way. He likes to keep it trim, keep it short. And then if something worse comes to worst, he's very keen for the under-23s to be involved. It's all one big camp now, like the COVID bubbles are sort of easing again. So yeah, that's how he likes it. And we just got to trust him because he's a saviour in this part of West Yorkshire.
Certainly is in that part of the world. He is much loved. Not as much loved as Rafa Benitez is at Everton, but we're getting there. Well, not we. I'm not involved in that, but you're getting there. We've got 2 Everton fans here with us tonight, so it's only right that we talk a little bit about Everton. Callum, I'll come to you first. Has he won you round? Are you prepared to forget all of his Liverpool links, or are you still in the back of your mind like he's a red and I can't get on board? Where do you stand with it?
Man, you know what? From day one, I was sort of like, we've got to give him a go there. I think he was the only person who actually wanted to manage Everton Football Club, so you've got to take your hat off for him. And he's got thick skin and he's came in, but I think the first 3 games, and I don't know what Scott will think, they've all been good performances for one. Probably apart from the first 45 minutes against Southampton, and the football has been good. And I mean, I spoke to a few Reds and they were sort of branding the football as gone and a bit like Mourinho, but for me, like, we're fast on the counter-attack, we're direct in a good way, we're not just playing long balls forward, and the football's good, we're creating a lot of chances away from home, and I know we won a lot last year away from home, but that wasn't something we were doing. We were really defending to get results last year, and this year, the football's been good, so I don't know if Scott wants to add on to that, but for me, he is getting there, mate, yeah.
Go for it, Scott.
Yeah, I like Benitez, even though he is a red, that he's good at what he does. He's very compact at the back, and he will get you breaking quick. And as much as I hate to agree with Gary Neville on anything, Gary Neville said something the other week, and he said at Goodison Park, they don't want to see 20 passes around the back before they go forwards, and it's true. You don't. It's much more entertaining for us to see quick on the break, nice attacking football, and it is hard sometimes. Like one of the games, we only had 30% possession. So, like, you sort of think, you don't want to invite that pressure on all the time. But then when you're breaking as good as they have been, you feel a bit more confident that you're going to do something. And they have been creating more chances. And for 1.5 million for Damari Gray, I know the lad has a bit of a good reputation for the price already. He's earned it. For me, he's looked one of our better players. And if some of the other players in the squad could take a page out of his book and just be a bit more direct, I think we do well.
Yeah, we'll definitely come to Damari Gray. He's probably one of the best pound-for-pound signings that have been made anywhere in the world. Maybe not even in this transfer window, but for the amount of money that you've paid, for the quality of play that he is, certainly, up there. Max, you've experienced a game against Everton under Benitez. What did you make of it from a Leeds point of view? Were you impressed, or do you think Leeds maybe should have won that game? What were your thoughts?
I think if you look at the possession of us having 70% of the ball at home, you kind of think we should be winning a game. But I think Everton are a good side. Benitez is a good manager. I said I think Leeds need to be starting to measure up and look at Everton and go, right, we need to be finishing around where they are or be within 5 points of them to like show progress, especially now like we've got the second season and we don't want to think about second season syndrome and be a Sheffield United. We want to start looking up, and I think Everton are a good target to get. I don't know if that's bold or brave of me to say, but I think Everton are a good club, and if we want to consolidate ourselves as a top 10 Premier League team, Everton is the way to go, and then Leicester, and then your Man City. So in 4 years' time, we'll be up there.
Love the optimism, mate.
Well, it's definitely not bold, mate, because he's finished over us last year.
Yeah, but I just think last year it was the whole no crowds. We might have taken everybody by a bit of surprise. I think we had a lot of away wins. We didn't draw away from home, so that maybe is like the fan factor of not feeling pressure, just like, oh, it's just a training game, relax, bish bash bosh, score 2 goals, win, easy peasy. But now everybody knows who we are, what we're about, and just maybe not be complacent. But I don't think that's not a Bielsa side, but maybe just in the back of our head going, Newcastle away, Norwich away, Brentford away, we should win these games easy. And then crowd gets behind their home team. They manage to scratch out a 1-0 win or a 1-1 draw. And it's like, no, come on, need to start thinking better than that. And I think Everton will bounce back with Benitez because he is a good manager. And I think if we can ride on the coattails or stay neck and neck with Everton, I think it's a very good season, considering we overachieved last season as well.
Too much Everton love on this podcast for me. No, I'm only joking, of course. Callum, let's talk a little bit more about Everton, coming back to you. Obviously, we've spoke a little bit about Damari Gray, and feel free to speak more about him, but what have you made of Benitez's incoming so far this summer? And I say so far because there is potential for one more, which we'll come to very shortly. But what have you made from the ones who were already in the door?
Starting off, it really feels like an Everton summer of 8-9 years ago under Moyes, which, to be honest, is a bit of a breath of fresh air. I know we've had the FFP looming over us, so we can't go out and make them big signings, and we haven't been able to get people like Moise Keane out the door early. Bernard, we got a nominal fee really for, so that didn't help. On the basis of that, I think it's been a good window in terms of who's came in. So I think Townsend, everyone at first was going, why are we signing him? He's Palace reject, etc. He does a good job, he puts it in for the shirt. He's good out of possession. He's quick on the counter-attack. He can dig a good ball out, and he's going to be a bit of a bit part play. He's going to be happy to be on the bench sometimes, come in and out. Obviously, Damari Gray, who Scott's touched on, has been absolutely outstanding. Pace to burn, clever, tricky, can turn on both feet, scored a goal. So Damari Gray for 1.6 million, it could have not worked, and it wouldn't have been an issue. Obviously, we've got Rondon, who's very close to be coming in. Again, I don't know what Scott thinks, but for me, I think he's going to be a handful. He's going to be good backup. I think he's going to offer a little bit more than Josh King, and we can trust him on the pitch. I think he holds the ball up well. I think he can score the odd goal, and I think he overall helps Jordan play and linking the ball up. So for that, there's obviously areas which we haven't improved, which we really needed to. So I think a right back, although Seamus Coleman started the season well against the bigger teams, when we're on the back foot a little bit more, he's getting ran at more. Will he get exposed? We're now a bit short at left back. It'll only be Fabian Delph who can play there behind Lucas Dean. So it's a bit of a mad one, mate. We haven't had a marquee signing, which has been bizarre for us this year, but it's been okay for what we've spent. But for me, I don't think we can be expecting Rafa to be working wonders or to be breaking anywhere near top 6 when he's only had 1.7 million to spend in one window. I don't know if Scott wants to add any more onto that.
Yeah, go for it, Scott, because obviously he's had a lot of restrictions put in place from previous regimes where money's been spent like wildfire, really. It's just gone everywhere. So in the context of that, he's probably done well to get as many players in as he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for them, really, like you say, because the purse strings are tied, aren't they, with the financial fair play. I think, mate, he's already said about Damari Gray, brilliant. Townsend, can use both feet, looks good, and you can't expect too much given what he's had. You know, it is difficult for him. I think the left back situation, like, I can't believe we're a bit disappointed they've let Nkunku go, because, like, I know he seems to be more of a winger, but he would have been good cover, and when he's played, he has looked good. So I'm a bit disappointed that he's gone out on loan. But they do need to strengthen. There's a couple of areas that worry me, and if they don't get players in, we could struggle. You know, I think if you get into Christmas 10, if you're 10th with the squads we've got, you can't really complain.
Yeah, is it almost like a sort of building block for next season, isn't it? To be honest,
yeah. I mean, you know, we spoke about it. Carol spoke about it. Sorry, you mentioned then about money getting spent everywhere from previous regimes, and it is true. But I think they've had like 14 players out. Is it this time? 14 players shot from the squads, and there's still a few hanging on that we can't get rid of, that you still go. So I think you could probably go to about 18, but you can't just not replace them, can you? You know, it's got to come from somewhere. But what do you do if you can't spend the money?
Well, this is it, isn't it? Do you start bringing in younger players?
He's not happening. You know, that's going to be tough. Because do you want James to stay? Do you want James to stay if he doesn't want to be there? Sorry, my laptop's just started playing.
Standard, you know,
that's deadline
issue.
In German.
As you do. I would dread to ask what he was actually watching on that laptop, but anyway, I'll move on. Max, let's talk a little bit more about this sort of FFP stuff. And you see teams like Everton who are extremely restricted. What do you think? It's tough, isn't it? Should teams be almost allowed to spend as much as they want, or should there be, are the restrictions right? Should there be further restrictions? We've kind of spoke about this in the past, but what do you think of this whole situation that Everton find themselves in particularly?
I just want to put on the record that I don't understand FFP in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, none of us do. Let's face it. I think that's the point.
Yeah, there was like a football finance journalist, so that's now a niche you can go into. With sort of big a Twitter feed thread on PSG's sort of how they're able to do it, and he started off by saying basically what they're doing is legal. Here's the details of it, and there's about 20 like tweets or something. It was so dull, it was so boring. I gave up after about 5 reading it. But I was just looking at like how Everton, like if you're doing like the classic cliche non-league, a player out for a player in sort of situation of we've got to get the money in first before we spend it. And I'm just looking at like there's just a lot of contracts expires, and they've got money for Bernard and Thierry Small, but you don't know how much. So and they weren't big players, so sort of it is really like money's tight at Everton. So maybe the 1.7 was, I don't know how much they got for Bernard, but it can't have been much because he didn't really light the world on fire after he came from Shakhtar Donetsk with all this big hype. But football, should teams be limited? Yeah, they should. I think they should be because it'd just be Man City running away with it. I know they're running away with it now and have been, but they're going to run away with it even more. So even though you don't see them selling players to get the money in to buy for somebody else, but yeah, it is. They need to be, if anything, they need to be harsher and more clearer so we know what's going on, instead of just you wake up one morning and you just find like your club's been had a transfer embargo and you're just like, what the hell is that all about?
Well, obviously you're speaking as a fan of a team that were in serious danger of pretty much getting wiped off the face of the earth almost, mate, with the whole administration stuff, and you ended up moving down the league. So something probably has to be done to protect those teams. And I suppose, in a way, Callum, would you agree that it sounds harsh, but is it for Everton's own good for at least a couple of seasons to get back to just, you know, making sure the club is sustainable again? And then, you know, can they learn lessons from the amount of money that they've spent? Because you know, like I know, every player that came in at Everton, particularly early years of Mashiri, was like an attacker midfielder. They just bought loads of them and just hope one of them stuck, and pretty much none of them have. So is there lessons to be learned there for brands and whoever the manager is, that maybe, be a bit wiser with your spending?
Yeah, in that context, yeah, obviously recruitment-wise, over the past couple of years has been abysmal, and I think one, it's transfer fees, and one, what the wages that we were just handing out. Bernard over 100k, Gomez close to it, Sigurdsson, Sandro Ramirez sat on 120k for a good 4 years, and these players, apart from Sigurdsson and Gomez at times, haven't really impacted. And I think we've, of course, learned our lessons on the pitch and in performance, that we've had money for a good 7 years odd now. We were spending close to 100 million every year, and we're still now going, we're in that transition period, and we've done this year on year on year. So recruitment wise, I think, yeah, it's a bit disappointing this summer, and I've been pulling my hair out over FFP, and I mean, I'm the same as everyone. I don't really understand it. How City can spend 100 million on Jack Grealish, and however much they spend, how can their income be much more than Everton's, apart from revenue from winning trophies? That's all I can flip it on the head with, because the gate receipts probably aren't much different from Everton, shirt sales, etc., fan base, it's the exact same. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of FFP on a big general. I think, does it keep the top six because they can spend more money clearly than anyone else? That's the frustrating thing with Everton, because the money is there this year. We just physically can't spend it. But then when City go over it, they get offered it.
Yeah, that's a good point, mate. That is a really good point. And I think it's quite poignant that you say, is it there to keep the top six? I'd probably argue, is it there to keep the European elite across the whole of the continent? Seems very harsh. But at the same time, I just wonder if it's a good thing. Obviously, for Manchester City, bucket loads of money. Doesn't matter how much they spend. They'll probably never, ever run out of it. Is Mashiri on that same level? Has he got that much money? Like, is he just going to keep pumping money into Everton? I don't know. Let's talk about somebody that is currently taking a lot of money out of Everton Football Club, and he's been unable to move on. Scott in James Rodriguez. Very, very weird summer. I think you'll agree. He's been on Twitch saying he doesn't know when Everton are next playing, and he wants to leave and stuff like that. It's just been such an odd summer. I mean, what is his future at the club now until January? Because we're assuming he's still going to be here till January. What is his future now?
Well, for me, mate, regardless of how much you need him, I'd say I'd cut my nose off to spite my face. The lad doesn't want to be there. I wouldn't play him unless I had to. I've got to be honest. If the lad doesn't know who you're playing, sitting there taking all that money, the fans have loved him. He's been treated like royalty since the day he come, and he doesn't even know who you're playing. Sorry, but thanks, but no thanks for me. I'm just done with him, mate. Honestly, and I just think if you don't want to be there, that's fine. But like, how could you let him come back and play? Would you? I mean, I'd be quite happy to just not play him. Like, unless we were desperate, I wouldn't expect he's going to give us all. Like, he's proven that with his professionalism off the pitch. So would it surprise you if he didn't give us all on the pitch? I just couldn't. I just don't know what to make of it. But I'm not happy about it, and I'd sooner just give someone the chance. You know what? I'd rather play someone who wants to play for the shirt than someone who's just making up the numbers to get the wages.
I'm with you on that. If it was up to me, he'd be training with the under-23s or the under-18s. In fact, you know what? No, he probably wouldn't, because he'd probably just be a bad influence on them. I'd have him training on his own. That's why I'm not a football manager. Max, I don't know how much you know about the situation, obviously being a Leeds fan away from it, but in terms of what you've just heard, especially, what would you feel like if you had a player at Leeds that was just there for the money, wasn't interested, didn't even know when the next game was? I think he even pulled out of games towards the latter end of last season. I wonder, did he know if Ancelotti was off at that stage, maybe? How should teams deal with a player like that? And do you know what? Should there maybe be some sort of like rule put in place for clubs to just buy themselves out of contracts and say, actually, we don't want you anymore, you can go for free, and we won't pay you any more wages?
Well, I think it's very similar to the scenario you can refer to. That is the Willian one at Arsenal, where it's just even Arsenal players you could be getting 20 million for sitting on the bench or sitting on the reserves bench or just sitting, not even bothering to turn to games and watch on the sidelines in the hospitality suite. He's decided to tear that up and take his 70% wage cut and go to Corinthians. And it feels like that might have potentially, I don't know if he himself has bought himself out that transfer of both clubs and gone, look, we don't want you here. You don't want to be here. You can't tear up the contract and just walk away. Everybody's kind of happy and it doesn't have to get dragged through the mud like this. Sounds like this potential James Rodriguez situation is. If James Rodriguez doesn't want to be there and Everton don't want him, what's stopping them from mutually breaking the contract and going, look, go train in Spain for 6 months and then get signed up in January by a Spanish team? I'm sure they'll love to have him. Maybe Barcelona. Potentially,
yeah. I'm assuming when Everton signed him, they made quite a fair bit of money in shirt sales from Colombia and stuff like that. But then, isn't there something weird, Callum, about your shirt deal where you can't buy it in certain places or something mad like that? Is that right?
I don't know, mate, anymore. We used to be on, what was it, that Kicking or something?
Something like that,
Kick Park, and we couldn't sell it in, like, certain places. But, I mean, Scott won't thank me for this, but I do want to flip it on its head. So, you've sort of got to take the situation from both people's point of view. So he is, a world-renowned, he's a world-class football player, and I don't think anyone can argue that, and has been practically forced out of Everton, which he is. I think we've made it quite clearly we don't want him, we don't want his wage on the bill anymore. For him, you're probably going to go, well, yeah, I'm a bit annoyed at this. So when he's getting all these messages on Twitch or whatever, he's probably making digs thinking, right, I'm going, I'm going to get a team here. And I think he's just annoyed at the club. So for me, it depends on his attitude coming back, whether we play him or not. For me, we need him. We've got a thin squad, as we said already, and who are we to turn our noses up? We've let it all go with Rafa, which is fine by me. Rafa's called us a small club, etc. Has James really done any worse by saying who he's playing on Saturday? It depends on his attitude. But for me, he's still got a place of a part in the squad. I don't know how much I'd start him. I don't know how much he's going to fit in with the system, but we're going to have to see. But at the end of the day, his numbers last season talk for themselves. I think he started 19 games, played 21 overall. He got 6 goals and 4 assists. It's pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? He's got bags of quality, but, his attitude stinks. And, as you say, the whole thing of him being online and playing games and commenting on things that he doesn't know when the next game is and he doesn't really care and he only came for Ancelotti, and you're bound to get annoyed. Before we move on, let's bring Andy back in to bring us up to date with the latest across the world. Andy, let's hear it.
Yes, that was the biggest one tonight. Griezmann back to Atletico Madrid. The latest thing coming out with it now is that Wonder Kid, the Portuguese superstar of Atletico Madrid, João Felix, has got absolutely nothing to do with it. He will be Atletico Madrid for the next season. Well, at least till January anyway. Poor news for career mode players. You're not going to be able to sign some of your favourite players at the start of your first season, with Camavinga going to Real, Sima, he's going to Brighton, and obviously Nuno Mendes going to PSG as well. Another one, Fenerbahce came out and said Kolasinac, he isn't going there, and Kamara is likely to be staying at Marseille as well.
Lovely stuff, mate. Lovely stuff. We will catch up with you in the next half an hour or so. See you very soon. The other situation I wanted to mention, obviously you've moved somebody on already, and Callum's already kind of came round to it a little bit, Scott, in Moise Kean. I wanted to get your thoughts on him not being able to make it at Everton. Obviously he came with quite a lot of hype, if you like, and things just never really worked out for him. What did you make of that?
See, I like Moise Kean, and there's no doubt he's got the ability. I just think when he first came to Everton, I know he got a few starts, but I don't think really he got enough of a fair crack of the whip. I think there was times when he got brought on when we were struggling, and I would have liked to stay, but again he didn't want to be there. And then when he played in the cup the other night and he got sent off, I think that just told the whole story about him there. He didn't want to be there. He found something that worked for him at PSG. And what can you do? Sometimes people come and it works for them, and sometimes it doesn't. If I had to pick something in particular, I just think sometimes you just don't fit. Sometimes you just don't fit, and that's all it could have been for him. You know what I mean? But I think that he'll go on and do well. I think he would have been great if you could get him firing on all cylinders and get him up front and get him working with the team. I think he could have done well, but just didn't want to be there, and there's just nothing you can do. There's just nothing you can do about it. If they don't want to be there, they don't want to be there.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Max, before I come to you, I'll just ask Callum the same. Why don't you think it worked for Moise Keane? And I mean, are you happy with the deal for him to go?
I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah, go on. Go on,
Have
mate.
you got me there, boys?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds. No, I was happy for him to go. I think, as Scott's picked up on there, his attitude was clearly quite bad. And I just don't think he's going to make it. Look, he's come in as the top man when he came in, and he couldn't shift Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin has just got better and better and better, and is the better player. For me, he wasn't up to it. His first touch wasn't very good. He didn't really make intelligent runs. He couldn't hold the ball up. So good luck to him at Juventus. I don't know how he keeps getting these moves, to be honest. So good riddance to that one. Yeah, not more to say on that.
Yeah, it's Max. It's a weird one, isn't it? When these deals don't really work out. Like,
I just don't know much about Moise Keane, but I want to say that when he got his move to Juventus, his family were from a very poor part of Italy or something like that, and I want to say he got the move to Juventus. He bought his mum a flat, and then I want to say he bought a tractor for an uncle or an old school teacher or something like that. I'm just associating he's bought a tractor with Moise Keane for somebody, but I don't know who, or it was definitely during a Juventus move, but that's all I know about him. And yeah, he's just not seemed to lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it's a say he came with a lot of hype, but it never happened. Let's look at Atletico Madrid, because a couple of bits going on over there. Max, I'll stay with you for this one. Antoine Griezmann going back to Atletico Barcelona are just the most ridiculous football club when it comes to transfers. They bought him out 2 years ago, was it, for 100 and something million? They've now sent him back for 40 million. What do you make of the transfer from both sides?
Yeah, so Atletico are laughing at this one because it's not a enforced 40 million, it's a 40 million option, so they could have him on loan and go, nah, we don't want him anymore, and then that's 40 million saved in one season of Antoine Griezmann. But I'm sure they'll take it anyway, because 40 million for Antoine Griezmann, when you got maybe even I want to say up to 120 million for him in the first place, you're winning. And Barcelona, they just seem to be strengthening all their opponents' teams. They're getting rid of Griezmann. They've got rid of Suarez last season as well. They don't appear now to have that sort of that poster boy. Like, obviously now that Messi's gone, you sort of think, right, well, it's going to be Griezmann, and now they've got rid of Griezmann. You're like, who's the poster boy for Barcelona? It's supposed to be this Ansu Fati who's getting the new number 10 shirt, but there's a lot of pressure to put on a young man taking over Messi's spot, and hasn't got Griezmann there to share the weight with him. And especially now that they have to cut costs. They've got Aguero, I guess, now, who just got registered in the last few minutes, last half an hour or so. But yeah, it's kind of like what they're doing, because got rid of Messi, cutting costs. You want to try and get Champions League football, and forget about the league. You want to qualify for the Champions League, and that's how you get the money. And by giving your best players to Atletico Madrid a direct competition, your best you can kind of hope for is third place right now.
Yeah, you've just strengthened the current reigning La Liga winners, who've got pretty much a bargain, to be honest, for Antoine Griezmann. And as you said it quite rightly, Max, Atletico will be absolutely laughing their way, probably to the La Liga title again, now that obviously Mbappe isn't going to Real Madrid. Another one, Callum, that we've seen from Atletico potentially happening. We've seen plenty of rumours. It was off, and now it's back on again, apparently. Saul Niguez is supposedly joining Chelsea on loan. What do you make of him as a player, and is that a good deal for Chelsea?
Yeah, look, I can't say I watch him week in, week out. Obviously, I watch him in the Champions League games. I play against the English side and a few bits of La Liga that we watch. But yeah, he's a good player. He's busy. He's played in a system similar to Tuchel's, where the defending sort of a low to mid block. He presses at the right time. I just think it strengthens Chelsea's squad again as a whole. He might not start every week, but again, they can rotate, and they've got 1-for-1 coming in and out, and I think that pushes their claim to the title again a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly, more strength for Chelsea. They've done quite a good job this season of not, obviously, when the transfer embargo, was thrown out, if you like, and ended. They went crazy, signed all sorts of players, and this year they've just gone, right, we'll get Lukaku, and now we'll add Saul in, and it's all good. We are just seeing a few reports flying around that Salomon Rondon to Everton is done and dusted, which we've expected all night. Scott, what do you make of him? I'll come to you in a sec, Callum, but Scott, what do you make of his arrival at Goodison Park?
He's going to be a big presence up there, isn't he? He's going to give us a bit of a different option and a bit more support. He's not. You wouldn't say he's prolific, but he hasn't got a bad record where he's played. So I think it'd be a good option. The age is a bit of a concern, isn't it? You would like a bit of a bigger marquee sign, but you just can't expect that now. I think he's got to come in and do well. He knows Benitez, doesn't he? And obviously he believes he can get the best out of him. And from what Benitez has brought in already with players, he knows who would I be to argue.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Certainly from a Liverpool point of view, we're getting a lot of people, like I've seen this, people protesting against FSG at the match on the 18th at Anfield. It just think it's mental. But the fan influences of football now is getting quite ridiculous, to be honest. Just another one to update you on. There was apparent interest in Kiefer Moore from Wolverhampton Wanderers. They were looking at Cardiff City's forward. Cardiff apparently wanted about 12 million for him. Obviously shone for Wales a little bit in the Euros over the summer, which has probably boosted his value up quite significantly. But we're sort of seeing a few reports now, particularly from the BBC, Simon Stone saying that Wolves' transfer window is over, and they won't be signing him at any point tonight. So it looks like they're done. Obviously, they've already signed a forward in Hwang Ki-chan as well, so that's something that they can fall back on. There's someone else I want to bring up. There's a couple of more Everton names that I want to bring up. In fact, just before I do, just from a Liverpool point of view, Millwall are trying to sign Shea Ojo. Very reminiscent of Minamino going at the last minute in January. This one, Callum, isn't it? Just like out of the blue, someone who's not really that good. I mean, Minamino's a bit better than Ojo, but apparently Millwall are trying to get Ojo as a season-long loan. Another player that you two will be very familiar with, and Max, you probably will as well, is Ademola Lookman. He's had so many loan deals during his time at Leipzig. It's just unbelievable. Surely he's got to be out of contract soon. But I mean, Callum, I'll come to you, mate. He's back in the Premier League. What do you make of him returning once again on loan?
Again, he's one of them in sort of that bracket that we've let go, who had a lot of potential and looked really good when we had them at times, in that bracket with Vlasic, Lookman. Then obviously you can put Keane in there. I personally didn't rate him, but again, young players with a lot of potential. He's a good player. Nice technically, really quick, good feet, got a good eye for the pass, and I think he performed well with Fulham in the Premier League. So yeah, for Leicester, I think he'll have an impact coming off the bench. I think that's all he'll be for Leicester at the minute. It's just a bit unfortunate it hasn't worked out for him at Leipzig after getting off to quite a big start. But yeah, it could be a way back into the Premier League with him with a top team, and we'll probably get quite consistent European football at Leicester with them being in the Europa League. So yeah, it could be a good move for him, and he's still got potential. He's only young. I think he's still 23, 24. So yeah, good luck to him.
Yeah, definitely. Max, I mean, I don't know, but off the top of my head, I'm assuming his contract runs out either at the end of this year or the year after. Is this a perfect move for him to try and maybe get a contract in the Premier League with, I mean, God knows who, he's been everywhere now pretty much, but who do you think maybe could be in for him? And as I say, do you think this is a wise move for him?
Yeah, because I think Leicester will be busy this season in terms of the amount of games to play, because obviously they're still trying to hopefully third time's the charm of trying to get back into the Champions League, Europa League. That's very sort of English teams are now take it kind of a lot more seriously than they used to, because if you win it, you get Champions League football. And yeah, it's just now with the conference, like this Europa Conference League, it's like, oh, this is kind of a better trophy because it's not the worst European trophy anymore. And obviously they're FA Cup winners, and you kind of want to put a decent stint in the FA Cup to defend your title. And obviously your fans, a lot of fan pressure saying, look, we won it last year, let's try win it again. We don't want to be out the FA Cup by end of January. So I think, yeah, he'll get a lot of game time, a lot of exposure. Who knows if he does well? Leipzig may want him back, or Bayern Munich will come poach him, because that's what Bayern Munich do to other German clubs. But I think, yeah, it will work out for him. Like Callum said, Europa League, lot of midweek games, European football. I think he'll get a lot of exposure. And I remember him bursting onto the scene as a youngster, and yeah, he's just disappeared and hasn't worked on for him since.
Yeah, you're right there, Max, and obviously Scott. What do you think has caused that? Is it an attitude problem maybe for Lookman? The reason why he hasn't actually kicked on and made a big thing of himself, particularly in this country?
Do you know what, Abe? I don't really know, because I always liked him when he plays at Everton. Whenever he plays, I always thought he looked good. There was one particular point when he was at Everton when we beat Man City 4-1 at Goodison Park, and everyone remembers Tom Davies' goal because he chipped it over the keeper at the end. Lookman scored as well. When Lookman scored that day, I thought, this is it, he's turned the corner and he's going to stick now, they'll stick with him. And he just never, and then he went, and then he's just been everywhere since, hasn't he? And I don't know what it is. I don't know whether he just doesn't seem to perform at just the level just high enough where the managers think he can do the job for us. And I don't know, I like him. He's fast, he can take a player on, he can create a goal, he always looks like he wants to play, he's eager, and he looks like he wants to be there wherever he plays. And I just don't know what it is. Like you said, maybe a attitude problem, but when you see him on the pitch, he doesn't look like he's got an attitude problem. So I don't know. I just think maybe he just can't just reach that next level. It's like sometimes you get players who can do it at the highest level, and get players who can sort of stick in at a certain level, and then you get players who have to drop down. He'd probably be an absolutely brilliant player in the Championship, or in Scotland. He play for Celtic or Rangers, but I just don't know what it is. But I like the kid. I can't see why it's going wrong for him.
Yeah, I always thought he was a threat. Certainly whenever Liverpool played against Everton or Fulham, I always thought he was a threat and he was a bit of a danger. I just wonder if potentially off the pitch at the training ground, is he turning up late? Does he not train well? I don't know. As I say, that's the only thing I can think is his attitude not there. Go on, Scott.
I think it could be, if it's personal, it could be something as simple as he's just maybe just a quiet character, timid personality. So in the changing room, he's sort of forgotten about, and when the manager comes in, it's just like, oh, you're an easy one to ship out to sort of look like I'm doing something, and he just hasn't had a manager that understands maybe he's a quiet guy, and he just let him do his thing, and he's just not had 90 minutes after 90 minutes after 90 minutes in the team to show what he's got and what he can do.
That's a good point. Scott, did you want to add something on that?
Just it reminds me, I hear whenever, and that's Jared Zarafaya, he always looked like a threat, but he just never seemed to just take that next step. And then where's he gone now? And I sort of feel sorry for them because they look like quality players, and like you said, they look a threat. But it just must be something. It could just be like Max said. You know, we might just be an easy target. It might shy away from confrontation in the dressing room and not put himself forward.
Potentially, yeah. I think that's a good point. That there's something there. Because there's a really good player in there, highly rated player in there. There's certainly something there that's stopping him. Fabrizio Romano has now tweeted that we are expecting Saul to join Chelsea officially in the next few minutes on loan. It'll be €5 million. I find this mad that you now have to pay money to loan players. It never used to be like this. You're now paying vast sums of money to loan players, and there'll be an option to buy for 40 million. So we'll see how it goes. He hasn't yet. He's tweeted, "Here we go" on that one. So it might be that might be all systems go. Another sort of interesting. Go on, Scott.
I've just had a message there, right? And I don't know how true it is. But I've just had a message saying that Everton are making a later 10 for Van der Beek.
Yeah, so I've seen that one. We spoke about that in the last hour. We actually seen that United have turned it down. United have said no on it. Yeah, I mean, when we were speaking to Kai in the last hour, who's a United fan, he kind of said, well, we need the backup, really. We need the cover if we let him go and we get another injury in midfield. You're probably stuck.
They've got a good depth everywhere, haven't they now?
They have, but at the same time, it's, he's... Do you admit that you've kind of signed a bad one and move him on that soon? I don't know. We'll see. Just another one, Max. I'll come to you with this one. We've seen this situation with Ainsley Maitland-Niles a bit earlier on today, and I think it was it yesterday as well? I can't remember. It seemed such a long day today. It feels like it might have been yesterday, but I'm pretty sure it was today. Excuse me. What do you make of players coming out and putting posts on Instagram, tagging the club in the post on Instagram that they want to leave, and also what do you make of the decision for Arsenal to keep him after all that as well?
Yeah, it's surprising that it's taken this long to get onto Arsenal, but but yeah, I mean, it's obviously just a sign of pure desperation. I can't imagine his agent or his management team or his parents, I don't know if they're his management team, because that sometimes happens, of recommending it. And it's just, maybe he doesn't believe that his agent's working hard enough to try and get another club, and he's like, right, how can I get some attention on me so even a team abroad can come and get me who might not know who I am or sort of semi-interested in me, just say, look, I want to go. And Arsenal to keep him, like, that's just wrong. That, again, that's saying you want to leave, like you said, that's straight to under 23s, under 18s training on your own territory, and then it's like, what's the point in keeping him? He got an England call up last season as well. He played well. It looked like things were going forward after, again, like, look, when a few loan spells, and yet they just don't pick him. And then I can only think it's because I believe Hector Bellerin's left as well today, so he's got to be covered for that. And he doesn't want that by the looks of it. He wants to play every week.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one because Arsenal obviously signed a lad. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Thomas.
Yeah, that's him. Well in, Callum. Obviously they brought him in. They let Bellerin go, but then they keep Maitland-Niles around as depth. Obviously, Callum, Everton were one of the teams that were highly interested in Maitland-Niles. So what did you make of the whole situation?
Yeah, just on that, I've had that Thomas A1 footy manager 20 and he was boss, so that's the only reason why I can remember him. At the start of the day, it looked hopeful for us because he was sort of pushing the move himself. He'd have been a solid player, to be honest, for us. He defends well, he's quick, he can overlap, he puts in a decent ball, he can play a few positions. So it looked like it would have been getting the sort of right back that we were looking for, and especially better cover there. Whether that might have meant John Joe would have went, would have been a different question. But unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. Arteta has dug his heels in, and it may be a similar situation for how James is at us. Like, is he going to get a chance now? Are the fans going to take to him? Because he really dug his heels in to get the move. Maitland-Niles didn't get it. and he's been forced to train on his own. So we'll have to see how that one works out. But from an Everton point of view, yeah, it was a bit disappointing, to be honest. That would have been a good signing on loan.
Yeah, definitely. I think loan signings as well are probably more likely at this time, purely because of the less paperwork, it's less messing about and stuff like that. So who knows? I mean, we've still got just over an hour left, so there could be potentially something coming from that. We're just seeing as well that Crystal Palace are confirming the signing of Odsonne Edouard from Celtic. Scotty was another one that was briefly rumoured with Everton, I think, earlier on in the window before Rondon was brought in. Is that a good signing for Crystal Palace? And I mean, did they need a centre forward after the way they've started?
You know what? He's a good player, isn't he? He can do a job up front, and if you're getting linked with Premier League clubs and you're playing in Scotland, you must be doing something right. Do they need another forward? Doesn't everybody need another forward? Just in case, you know what I mean. I think he'll go there and do well for them. I can't say I know a lot about him, but I know he's got a good reputation. And if Dave signs and we were interested, he must be doing something right.
Yeah, he must be.
I'm going to be honest, Dave. I'm not up to date with exactly how good the lad is. So hopefully, one of you will be able to tell me a bit more.
Well, I mean, Max, do you want to have a crack at it? I don't know how your Scottish knowledge is, but I mean, just tell us a little bit about what you make of the signing, and particularly, you know, Crystal Palace haven't had the most amazing start to the season. Could he potentially kickstart them under Vieira?
Well, it's been a lot of it. It's been a wholesale change at Palace, and they've carried on the theme right till the very end. Well, scored the first goals at the weekend, didn't they? So obviously a striker is needed again. Like Scott mentioned, I don't follow Scottish football, but it's kind of disappointing. I would say, if he's good, why hasn't he got Celtic into regular European group stage football? Is he good? If he can't do it against Eastern European teams, what's the difference? How's he going to do in the Premier League? So you know what I mean? It's like, I struggle.
Fair enough. Callum, any thoughts on that signing from you?
Yeah, I think one, he's got a boss song. So that'll be a good one for the Palace fans. I know I'm not going to sing it. Yeah, from what I've seen of him at Celtic, he's going to be a player who's going to get on the end of stuff. He's not going to create it himself. A lot of his goals come from inside the box, but you know, he's big, quick, strong, holds the ball up pretty well, and he's a bit of a fox in the box. So hopefully he's what Palace need up front, and he'll get him a few goals.
Absolutely. You know, obviously, as you said, not a great start for Palace. Christian Benteke doesn't fill me with confidence up front. They've got Wilfred Zaha there. Maybe you need somebody else to just sort of kickstart things and get it back. Before we let you three go, let's just quickly get your thoughts on one of the biggest moves in the transfer window. It was Cristiano Ronaldo going to Manchester United. I know you're shaking your head, but you'll see why. I'm talking about it in about 4 minutes' time. Scott, just some thoughts on him going back there?
You know what? I think it's obviously great for him. He obviously helps the club in high regard, and I think that's probably going to be the last places he plays, isn't it? You know, so I think it's great for him. I don't know how good it is for everybody else. I think he'll do well, and you know what? I think it's great if you can bring talent like that to the Premier League. It's better for us. I know for one, even though like my little boy hates Man United, he's a proper Evertonian, sits in the lower classes. But you know, when Everton play Man United at home, he will be delighted walking up the match to see Ronaldo, and that's enough reason for me to be glad he's came.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's hard to argue. I know the three of us, Liverpool fan, Everton fans, Leeds fans, you know, not exactly the biggest fans of Manchester United, but you know, as you say, Scott, your little fella, he'll be delighted with seeing, you know, the generational talent of you know, both him and Messi are arguably the best to ever do it potentially. Max, you were shaking your head, and I know it's difficult as a Leeds fan to talk about Manchester United. I get it as a Liverpool fan. be as unbiased as you can. Tell us what you made of the transfer.
The last 48 hours, every time I've turned the TV on, it's all been about Ronaldo, and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ,
longer than that, mate.
Yeah, and this is like at 25 to the hour. It's like it's not even on the hour anymore. How can you still be talking about him for 35 minutes? But we move on. Yeah, well, as a Leeds point of view, we only have to face him once instead of twice this season, so that's a positive. But yeah, it'd be good for the club. It's trying and be unbiased. It'd be like, yeah, it'd be good for United. I think maybe Pogba, he'll like it because a lot of Pogba gets a lot of criticism, maybe with another superstar in there as well as like him, Bruno, and there can be sort of like three musketeers in Manchester and be millionaires going around town having a great time and playing football on the weekend and enjoying themselves. So yeah, that'll be fun to watch. And yeah, I don't know what to say.
Just say it through gritted teeth, mate. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Totally get it. Callum, finally, mate, what did you make of it?
Yeah, pretty much on the same page as Scott, and I'm 24 and I'm pleased to see him back. It's going to be one of the last opportunities just as a footy fan that you're going to get to see him regularly, and we'll get to see him at Goodison Park and Old Trafford, and he is just what he is. He's one of the greatest players ever. Just the flip side of the question to everyone else, I don't know what you think of how the signing and the outcomes will be for Man United. I mean, for me, they actually do play good attacking football, and will it now take minutes off Greenwood? Will it affect the way they go forward if Ronaldo wants everything through him? I think if he goes there and he's just going to play as a central striker and he's sort of going to get on anything in and around the box or outside the box, he'll come pick it up, have shots, etc., and sort of let them do the thing they've been doing, I think it'll work out brilliant. If not, it's going to be all about him and he's just swapping positions. He's played with Solskjaer. Does he think he can overrule him, etc.? I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, let's throw that question to some Manchester United fans and see what they made of the whole situation. But Scott, Callum, Max, thank you very much for your time. Massively appreciated this deadline day. Callum, it was nice to do it again, mate. We had fun.
Always enjoyed it, mate.
It feels like we done one last week, but it was obviously January. It was a long time ago. But no, thank you for the three of you for joining. We say goodbye to them three now, unfortunately. 3 more beautiful faces to come. Again, unfortunately, I'm still here. Never mind. So let's hear from some Manchester United fans on what they made of Ronaldo returning to Old Trafford.
Yeah, it's actually brilliant. It's going to be an exceptional feeling down here at Old Trafford when we get him back. Obviously, he's our legend. I grew up watching Ronaldo. When I heard he was going to City, I was gutted actually. But I actually didn't believe it was going to happen, to be honest. But I think we can't wait to have him back.
I'm really excited. Yeah, I can't wait for him to join if he does. He's a legend. He's a club legend, so him returning would be amazing. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Well, I wonder the reasoning behind it. I'm wondering, is it to do with the money or is it to get a striker? So I'm not sure.
I'm happy with it because he's a legend, but obviously I would have preferred a midfielder, a holding midfielder coming in, but you can't deny Ronaldo coming in, of course.
Yeah, absolutely landed with the thought of him back here. Yeah, we're delighted. So yeah, 36, well, he's so fit, isn't he? You know what I mean? So he looked sharp at Juventus last year and in the Euros for Portugal. So I think he'd be a sensational signing for us.
Yeah, I think he can offer being a sort of mentor to Rashford and Greenwood. I think he could help Bruno especially develop because Greenwood's become much better under Cavani. So I think with Ronaldo as well, it'd be really good.
He looks after his body. He's a machine. He's definitely he will go to his 40 easy. Yeah, he's really fit. He'll carry on.
It depends really if they move players on now. So they won't want to upset Cavani really, and he's been a brilliant signing himself. So maybe if they got rid of another player, give Cavani another shirt number, like a number 9 for example, and then maybe Ronaldo could have his number 7 back.
You can't not give it to Ronaldo. His brand is CR7 and he's having it. 100% having it.
To be really honest, Ronaldo is an exceptional player. Let's get some facts really straight because he's not like the average player that gets tired with age. Ronaldo, I've always seen him to improve. It's like fine wine. He gets better by the age. So I do not think the age is really going to be a factor. Having said that, I do not also expect him to play week in, week out. I expect him to feature more in the Champions League stages later this season, and I think he's going to be a brilliant addition to the squad.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but I don't know whether if Sancho can get it. I don't know if Cavani want to give it to Ronaldo, but I mean, it's Ronaldo, it's different to Sancho. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did get it.
I think I said he's dead to me if he goes. and then about half hour later, he's back, and I'm loving him. So
yeah, it was before the tour. We did a tour of the stadium, and we were all thinking, "Oh, I can't believe he's going to City." By the end of the tour, he's back with United. So we were all, everyone on the tour were bouncing.
Well, there you go. Some thoughts there on Manchester United signing Cristiano Ronaldo. Just what everyone in this room wants to hear, really. No Manchester United fans at all. So sorry to put you through all that. If it's any condolence, if you like, I had to edit it as well, so I get double the abuse, if you like. Obviously, we're into the last hour now of the deadline, and we say hello to 3 new faces. Andy's going to join us for this hour. He'll be bringing us up to speed with what's going on as well before the window closes. But it's a warm welcome to Charlie, Mike, and Ben. Charlie, Middlesbrough fan, what's going on in your neck of the woods today?
Well, we've made our 12th and what looks like our final signing. So it's been a busy window. We brought in Andras Spira from Sporting Lisbon. He's coming on a season-long loan. So a really good signing. Middlesbrough just had to persevere, really, to get him across the line. But he's coming. He came in about midday today. And then we've just announced about 4 or 5 hours ago, James Lee Saliki from Rennes, the midfielder who's got Europa League and Champions League experience. So I think that'll probably be it. Sam Morsey's just left to go to Ipswich on a 3-year deal. So overall, 12 players in. I think the Morsey deal was probably just to balance the books a little bit, but a really positive window, and I'm sure Neil Warnock will be delighted with the players he's brought in.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll keep posted just in case anything does happen in there. Keep an eye on it for us. Mike, welcome to the show. You've just missed obviously quite a deep, in-depth Everton chat, but let's just dive into it with yourself anyway. What have you made of Everton's window so far? What are you happy with? What are you disappointed about?
I think I mean, to probably echo what a lot of the other Evertonians have said, it's a disappointing window, and it's not something that we weren't expecting because we knew that money and finances were going to be tight this window. So it was likely to be a matter of moving players on before we could buy anyone. But it's still, ultimately frustrating that you can only spend £1.7 million on a new manager who's trying to implement a new system, and makes it feel a little bit like he's being hung out to dry almost. But the players we've signed, Andros Townsend and Damari Gray, have come in and done well. I know we've got Lonergan as a backup keeper as well, and for the relatively small transfer fees we've paid, I think they'll definitely add some value to the squad. But in any transfer window, you really want to get something to propel you up the league and to give someone something to think about, especially when you see what other teams around us have been doing and the sort of money that's been thrown around by the big 6 clubs. So it's been disappointing all in all, but I think probably a lot of Everton fans are pretty much expecting this sort of transfer window.
Yeah, I get your point. And obviously, we spoke about that in the last hour, but to be fair, not a bad start, mate. Not a bad start considering all the restrictions that Benitez has had. Ben, good evening. Welcome to the show. I don't know whether we've actually lost Ben because he looks like he's frozen a little bit, but we'll come back to him in a sec. I think he has frozen. We'll come back to him in a sec. Andy, you've been quite disappointed, let's say, to put a really, really understatement of a word on it, with Newcastle so far this summer. Would you like to vent your frustrations for the next minute or so?
Yeah, I think Newcastle fans have been quite vocal over the disappointments in the club this summer, especially in the game against Southampton. It took 10 minutes for the Bruce chance to start, and it's not the fact there isn't money there, because there is. The way we've sold players over the last few seasons, and for us to just bring Joe Willogan is criminal, especially with how much is needed in the squad. Fullbacks, we're playing 2 wingers really in fullback mid. And then we've got so many reliability issues in the middle that we're now playing 3 number 10s in central midfield. It's just, thought I surely got my hopes up when I first saw the Boubacar Kamara rumours today, because he's the player I would have loved to come in, especially knowing he's out of contract next year at Marseille. That's not happening. He's not going to Wolves either. That's one that's gone. And then Hamza Choudhury, really, it's just we should be looking for much bigger players than that, and sadly, it's just not happening under Ashley.
Yeah, certainly not. I mean, how much do you think, Charlie, the clubs have been sort of hamstrung? Obviously, you've got situations like Everton where the FFP rules and stuff like that are restricting them. And Mike, I'm sure you'll come to that in a minute. But Charlie, in terms of like the past year that we've had, and revenues have been really down, and the clubs have also had to spend more money in terms of like adhering to new social distancing restrictions, like the players can't all travel on the one coach. They've had to like hire 2 coaches and all these little extra add-ons. How much do you think that's impacted this transfer window so far?
Yeah, look, I think it's impacted massively. I think, look, if you look at clubs like Middlesbrough, when with our chairman Steve Gibson, it's all down to how his business is doing as to whether we'll have the funds in the window. So I think it's been a lot of chop and change really at Middlesbrough. Warnock's had to free a lot of wages and get players off the books to then bring new players in. So I think a lot of teams are in the same position as that, but it's frustrating when you see clubs like ourselves and other clubs. You mentioned Everton there, where they've got to be so strict on their finances, and then you're getting fees of 180, 200 million pounds thrown around like that's nothing. So it's been a tough year, but I think with fans coming back, you're going to expect the next couple of windows to hopefully see a little bit more of a free movement of players.
Yeah, potentially. And obviously, Mike, I mentioned there, and you've kind of alluded to it in your last answer with Everton being very restricted in the transfer market. Do you feel like the other teams are also obviously not as restricted as Everton have been, but do you feel like that maybe gives not an advantage, but it benefits Everton that everyone else is kind of in a similar boat?
I think in general, obviously, we were expecting a lower sort of transfer window than usual in terms of the overall spend. I'm not sure whether that's actually conspired, because you see some of the fees that have been thrown about, and you see £180 million bid turned down for Mbappe today, apparently, which just seems obscene for someone in the last year of the contract. But I mean, our troubles were completely self-made. I can't really, I haven't got the same excuses as a Newcastle fan could have, for example, because we've thrown £500 million at players over the last 5 or 6 years and basically pulled out a load of dross that we now can't get off the wage bill. So I feel like Mashiri probably came in with the new ground on the horizon, which it now looks like we're going to fund the first part of, which initially wasn't the plan. And with that, I think he's thrown a lot of resources at trying to push on to be a Champions League club at that point, and if not a Europa League, and it's all just backfired. And at the end of the day, you live and die by your recruitment. And you look at some of the players who are there now, like Cenk Tosun is on, I think, over 100 grand a week and is never going to play for the club again in all likelihood. And you just can't shift those players on those wages. So it's a really difficult situation, but it's all self-made. So it's whether having this quiet transfer window this year maybe frees up funds next year and gives us some more leeway then. But it seems like it's probably a long road back to where we can just go and throw £30 million or £40 million at a player, as we have been in the last few years. So maybe being a bit more frugal with our money, trying to make smart signings, is going to have to be where we go. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but obviously a definite change of tact.
Yeah, certainly from the last couple of years anyway, as we mentioned in the last hour, it was Everton just threw millions and millions of pounds at number 10s and seeing who stuck, and it never really worked out, unfortunately. Andy, in terms of we're talking about the teams in the Premier League particularly being restricted, but they've still spent somewhere in the region of £1 billion. So, I mean, restricted to an extent, but are we maybe seeing teams? You look at the likes of Manchester City have bought one player. They've identified. I know they would have liked the forward, but they've identified that's what they want. Chelsea, obviously, at the moment, have signed one player, still waiting for confirmation that Saul is going to actually sign for them on loan. Liverpool with one signing. Are you seeing teams now being a little bit more, okay, we only need this for our team. We don't need to sign, 3, 4, 5 players to come into the squad? Or is it down to the restrictions, and can we expect even more spending next year?
Yeah, I think this window, I think, showing that it's starting to open back up with teams spending again. I think next year it'll be more. I think City obviously bringing Grealish in was a massive accusation for them. Maybe missing out on Kane. They thought they would be missing out on a striker, but Gab Jesus has had an amazing start of the season. As for the way teams have spent, I think Arsenal fans have done a lot of complaining, but they're one of the biggest spenders in the transfer market. They probably will kick on at some point, but I think when you've got teams like that complaining, whinging on when they've spent so much, fair enough, demand more, but don't go on like your team's in a state. Like, I'm biased, but Newcastle is really our teams that have struggled and gone down in the past. Like teams up here, like Borough and Sunderland, they haven't had the back and they haven't had the investment these teams down south get. No matter how tough they might think they're getting it at the minute, it's now that we haven't had and they're still going through up here.
Well, this is the thing that people don't take into account, isn't it? And Charlie's nodding his head, of course, same sort of region. It's very difficult, notoriously, for the likes of Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Sunderland, even to an extent like Hull, Leeds, any team. Do you know what? Even probably teams like Everton, Liverpool, Manchester United, potentially Manchester City, big players, or not even big players, most players want to go and live in London. Certainly the foreign players, everywhere around the world, they think of London as England and stuff like that. So, Charlie, how much of an impact do you think that's had on over the years of teams trying to sign players and trying to bring them in? I mean, I can think of a few off the top of my head with Liverpool, but do you think it's a big problem?
Yeah, look, I think it is. I think we've seen it quite a bit in the Northeast that players have preferred moves elsewhere and seem to go sort of down south, which you'd expect. But I guess if players don't want to come to the club for the right reasons, then they don't want to be at the club. But I think the pull is there. It's evident that if the manager isn't saying the right things to the player, that pull's going to be there. So you've just got to spend some time up in the Northeast to realise that it's not the most amazing place, and I'm sure everyone will admit that it's working class people, but the heart and soul is there. So it's just a shame that players want to live in the bigger cities like London, when they could still get an equally as good backing up here in the Northeast.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just that thought, isn't it? If they want to live in London, that's all there is to it, really. Mike, I didn't really get to go into too much detail, but one of the deals that we are kind of waiting on being confirmed is Salomon Rondon joining Everton. I think it might have been confirmed now. I'm not too sure. What do you make of that signing? Obviously, he's back with Benitez. Is he going to play a big part, or is he just a bit of depth behind Calvert-Lewin?
I think Andy's probably the better person to ask about Rondon, to be fair. But I mean, from what I've seen of him, he fits the profile that we've gone for. I think Benitez has come in and expressly tried to sign wingers, a big striker in Calvert-Lewin, and I suppose it's pointless having that system if you haven't got a backup to Calvert-Lewin, which Moise Keane was never going to be. So I don't think he's necessarily going to come in and threaten Calvert-Lewin's position, immediately, but I think it definitely gives you that flexibility that if Calvert-Lewin does pick up an injury, I know he's been playing with a broken toe in the first few games, but if that gets worse or he gets suspended, then at least you've got a like-for-like sort of target man there to come in and replace him. And for a change, I think it's good to see that we're buying into some sort of strategy rather than just, as you said before, just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. But there's only so many number 10s you can try and squeeze into a team, as we found out. But no, it makes sense largely. I don't imagine there's a massive fee involved either. So you'd like to have seen more than just him coming in on deadline day, but you can see obviously why we've done that.
Yeah, my issue would have been, is he on large wages? Obviously, coming from China, Benitez will know how much he's on. Obviously, would have given him the contract. Andy, as Mike said, he stole the words right from my mouth. You'll know Salomon Rondon better than all of us in here. What are Everton getting?
I honestly think he'll be a quality signing for Rafa. Seems very much to get best out of him. To be honest, amazed. I know there were the rumours at the start, but amazed that Rafa didn't go and get his second son, Jose Perez, because they linked up great for us. It just worked, and I think certainly as a super sub, he's going to bring you on. If you 1-0 up, he'll be able to hold the game up top. He's big enough to hold himself. So I think Everton have certainly got something to look forward to. Certainly impact off bench wise. I don't think he'll ever get a game over Calvert-Lewin unless he's injured, obviously with him aging. But Rondon's a brilliant addition to any squad, I think.
Yeah, certainly, probably someone you might have wanted Newcastle to bring back in a very Ronaldo-esque sense, returning to his old club. That would have made bigger news than Rondon going back to Newcastle. Let's face it. I think we're all sick of that. Ben, good evening. Welcome to the show. Let's dive in and get your thoughts on Aston Villa, because obviously Jack Grealish departs earlier on in the window, and to be fair, probably at a decent time to give Villa a chance to bring in some new additions. So what have you made of A, Grealish leaving, and B, the replacements that have been brought in by Dean Smith?
First of all, good evening, chaps. And well, you kind of come to terms with the Grealish thing when push comes to shove. Obviously, he's your player. He's been at the club since the age of 5. You want him to stay. I heard you guys at the very top of the show talking about Lionel Messi and would he leave Barcelona. I'm not comparing Jack Grealish directly with Lionel Messi, but I think you can see my point. But eventually, you're going to have to move on if he wants to leave. And I think Villa were very shrewd with what they did. They would have loved him to have stayed, but they had a plan for if he was going to go. And that money, we believe it is that money, because they had it earmarked for Emi Buendia, who's coming from Norwich for a record fee, Leon Bailey as well. And then the surprise of all surprises, on the day that Jack Grealish was finalising the deal for Manchester City, out of nowhere, Danny Ings appears at Villa Park. So, as long as I think we could all agree that as fans, as long as our club's got a plan, we'll go with it. It's when you get to 40 minutes on deadline day and there's not much happening, and you're starting to then kind of panic, because if you think, if you really want to, in Premier League terms, improve your squad to the level with which you want to compete at, then you're going to be looking at international players. And I'm afraid all the best players that you could possibly sign have just gone away on international duty. So realistically, it's not going to happen. So if you are clinging on for your club to announce something in the next 40 minutes, then I think you need to prepare yourself for quite a long and difficult season. Villa got their business done. They got their business done early. We still have yet to see the best of the signings that have come in. I was at Villa Park on Saturday, and it's still taking a bit of time to bed in. But I think eventually they'll come good, and I think we will have a good season. I can't remember a summer, certainly in the last decade or so, where we've actually been as encouraged as we have been about the signings at Villa. So that is something positive to look forward to.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mad situation to be in. Obviously, you've lost Jack Grealish. You'd assume that you'd be really disappointed that you've lost your star man, but obviously you've made good signings and you've turned it around. Charlie, Ben mentions there obviously about transfer window.
They had a plan.
Deadline.
They had a plan.
Yeah, they did. Obviously, clearly, because it was all straight away. It was all done and dusted not long after he was sold. Charlie, as I say, Ben mentioned there about the fact that most of the players are on international duty now, and this transfer deadline day is going. Should there be maybe a rule put in place that the international break can't happen until some players have been able to finalise their deals?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's just one of them. I think it's just really bad timing of it all, and we we had Martin Piero, the young Argentinian midfielder, and that we were waiting for about 2 or 3 weeks for that to be announced because he was at the Olympics. So we were waiting for Argentina to get knocked out to then be able to confirm that he was our player. So no, I think it'll be frustrating for a lot of fans, but it now gives players a chance to sort of I guess go out on international duty, and then they'll come back. But I would ideally want our players to come in and be straight bedded into the squad and get their sort of get the head down and straight into the squads, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of an awkward situation for some of them, isn't it? And as I say, as Ben says, if you're waiting on teams, I know these things can be done virtually now. These, you used to fail a medical and the deal used to fall through and stuff like that, but now it can all be done virtually. So, Mike, I mean, is it worthwhile them doing, making a rule, putting in place, or is it should we just carry on?
I think, I think it's stupid for clubs to leave the business until the last day anyway. To be honest, I'll never understand why you give yourself that time pressure. I mean, I know from watching, documentaries like the Sunderland documentary that obviously there's so many frantic calls made on deadline day and things like that obviously things can progress, but I can only really understand opportunistic signings on deadline day. I don't see why, for example, Everton are trying to sort out 3 of the main signings on transfer deadline day. Surely the months before when you do that, but generally on international break they're quite accommodating with medicals and things like that, aren't they? As long as it's done early enough and you can get those extensions. So I think it's possible for something to be done. Obviously, when you get down to the last couple of hours, it becomes very difficult. But I think that's ample punishment for any team trying to do the business on the last day, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you are at that stage where you're, 35 minutes away from the deadline, you still haven't done your business, it's probably a lack of planning, or in Andy's case, it's just a lack of willingness for the owner to spend the money.
Yeah, like I said, there's been a couple of loan deals already trying to sort out today, but the latest that came out now is Newcastle aren't willing to pay any loan fees. I know it's a new sort of thing, these loan fees to be able to take players away from clubs for a season, but it's just gone beyond past the joke now at Newcastle. It's not. I'll get excited a bit on match days, but then our next game's against Man United, Ronaldo's debut, we're just gonna get hammered. So I'm already looking past that, and you've got Steve Bruce as your manager, who's got the worst winning percentage in the league. Mike Ashley is your owner, and takeover that keeps getting delayed and pushed back by the Premier League. So it's just not fun about being a Newcastle fan.
Completely dejected human being right there, ladies and gentlemen. Completely dejected. God love you.
Can
Ben,
I just make
go on, mate. Yeah, go for
point,
it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think what we could say for obviously a wider audience here is that with 35 minutes to go, I think it could be an exciting few minutes if you support a championship club, if you're looking to pick up a good player on loan from the Premier League who can't get into a starting 11. I think there's a real opportunity for somebody to drop down into the champ. I mean, for instance, we did a bit of business today at Villa Conor Hurahan going to Sheffield United. I think for if you're looking at improving your squad, I think this is where this period comes into its own. As for the transfer window itself, quite happy. I don't know how far back you guys can remember, but I'm a bit old school. I'd scrap the whole thing and just allow free trade up until a certain deadline day, which is in March, and just let everybody get on with it. I don't see why this has, particularly on the back of a tournament as well. If you're on the back of not just the Euros, but the Copa America, and this international break now, this is a very tight window for a lot of clubs to do their business, and I think it's very difficult.
So what you're saying is you don't want to see Jim White in a yellow tie ever again, which, to be fair, we won't anyway because he's left Sky. But no more deadline day from Ben.
Oh well, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Go on, mate.
No more windows is what I was saying. I'd let there be free. I'd let there be free trade, and I'd have a cut-off point, a deadline day in, say, late February, early March, and say that's it for the running.
Okay, very much like a non-league operation where players just move left, right, and centre until a certain point in March when things have to stop. Charlie, what do you think it could work?
Yeah, look, I think it could work. I think obviously with non-league, a lot of the time, if players aren't contracted, you can give a club 7 days. So you could say to a club, look, we want that player, and within 7 days they then have a decision to make. But I think I do still like it being in a set period of time. But going on to point from from Mike that was made about how we don't understand how they leave it till the last minute, because deals just seem to be getting done at any time, and I think you're best to get your deals out the way early doors in the window. But it's definitely something to think about, really. An elongated transfer window, really.
Absolutely. I'm just spotting that Andy is being caught here trying to swap something around in his room. What's the shirt that we've gone for in the back here now?
I thought I'd get Club Legend up, and
Oh no!
Oh no! That shirt also makes absolute zero sense. I bought that on my 23rd birthday last year because I was wearing the Niobe 23 shirt, and obviously the Euros were meant to be last year as well. So I find this on eBay. Niobe played for Nigeria. That's pre-owned. Someone went out when that shirt came out and got that printed. I just want to know
my word.
The story
that
behind
is,
it.
I mean, they have got extremely lucky there in selling that to you, because that is a very niche shirt. 23rd birthday,
Oh,
wanted
mate, I
it
love
for
it.
the Euros. Very niche. What's the other one?
Another Club Legend, mate.
I thought it was
Jonas.
Gutierrez. Yeah, I thought it was. I just couldn't see on the
Spider-Man,
angle.
mate.
I think we should, every time we come off, I'd like to see a new shirt, Andy. Can you provide that for us? You've actually changed your shirt as well. Just
yeah,
realising you didn't have that shirt on at the start of the night.
Well, the black one I had on, I also had that on when I had my COVID jab before, so I was aware that I might be getting a bit mean. I haven't really checked my arm.
Yeah, a little bit of blood dripping through, maybe. Yeah, okay, fair dues. There'll be no other costume changes, though. That's certainly not from me. Not into all that.
No.
But as you can tell, deadline day is really slowing down if we're talking about shirts. So Mike, is it a flawed concept now that we're getting to exactly half an hour till the deadline? Are you with Ben? Because I've been one round.
Well, I think we sort of, you go one way or the other, don't you? I think the problem that comes if you just open up, it's just free season for transfers any given time, is you get to December and maybe what if in the middle of January a team's played someone twice, and then you sign, say City sign Jack Grealish, and that's when you start getting into the territory of like you can start affecting games by having more performances against opposition in that relegation chase or a title chase or European football. I think we sort of went the other way with it, didn't we, last year, and tried to finish it before the season started, which I think personally makes sort of more logical sense in as much as your team's defined before the actual season starts. But obviously that put you at a disadvantage then to the rest of the clubs in Europe who could just handpick any players they wanted from you, and you didn't have a window to then replace them. But I do think there's definitely less of a spotlight on the deadline day itself compared to if you think 5 or 6 years ago, even when it was really meant something and it made sense, and you got hundreds of millions of pounds spent on deadline day and there's massive stories. But I think as you sort of alluded to earlier, I had 6 hours of will he won't he about Mbappe today, which was never going to happen. So it is mainly Sky Sports trying to eke a story out, I think, at this point. But we've seen some movement. I think Edouard's just gone to Crystal Palace, hasn't he, which has been telegraphed for a while. But there's definitely still some signings. I just think a lot of clubs, especially the more savvy clubs, are trying to do the business early, and have the squad settled by now. But one way or the other, I'm happy for a deadline date to be done with now.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think today has been more so about the deals that have already been in motion have been wrapped up today and confirmed today. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think just on your point about it was a bit of a failed trial of ending the transfer window before the season started. As you say, logically it makes so much sense, but then when you've got all the other European leagues still active, it doesn't really make much sense because you can potentially end up being weaker by the end of August. Whereas at August the 8th or whatever, when the season kicks off, you think you've done all your business, happy days, done and dusted, and then Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona, whoever it is, come in and take one of your better players and you can't replace them. It's probably not fair. Ben, go on, Mike.
I have just seen that Spurs released Serge Aurier though, apparently, from his contract. So
yeah,
that's got ourselves, Ben or Andy, written all over it. That I think Serge Aurier.
Yeah, potentially. Maybe that's. I mean, so because he's now a free transfer, does he? He doesn't have to sign before the deadline, does he?
No,
I
think he can sign him afterwards.
Go wherever he wants. So one to keep an eye on, but maybe not tonight. He'll probably take his time. Now, obviously, Spurs were desperate to move him on after they signed, is it Royal? Don't know what his name is. Emerson Royal?
Yeah,
Emerson Royal, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like a burger. Get out of Burger King and Emerson Royal. Cheese, please. He's probably not that good either. But we'll see. Obviously, another signing, another right-back, Hector Bellerin, now confirmed at Real Betis. That one, again, has been telegraphed all day long. I was going to come to Ben with a question, but I can't remember what that question was going to be because I'm now fancying a Burger King. But there you go. Ben, what's been your
sorry, David.
What was he going to? I don't know whether you're going to.
Sorry, I missed you there. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. No, I'll just come to you about what's been your sort of favourite either transfer or rumour that's happened today. What's really caught your attention?
Well, it's not today, but if I'd have been on the call earlier when I was watching on YouTube, lads, you were talking about Messi and PSG and where were the places where he could realistically have gone. There was a swirl of a rumor. I don't know if you picked this up at the time. There was a swirl of a rumor that on the Argentinian national team, Messi's best friend is Emi Martinez, the goalkeeper. And Emi Martinez had told him, if you want to move, that's the place you want to go and move to. So for about half an hour, we got very excited. And then it was killed that he was going to PSG. But we did twitch a little there.
Yeah, do you know what, mate? I can kind of appreciate that with the whole Mbappe to Liverpool rumours. You get so worked up behind it. You see so much making sense, and then it just gets snatched away from you. So you're fortunate that it only lasted half an hour because ours is probably going to last another 6 months.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's have a chat about Mbappe then, Charlie. We kind of mentioned this in the last hour, but obviously, Real Madrid have bid, I think it was around 200 million euros or 180 million euros for a player that runs out of contract come this time next year, or maybe just a bit earlier than this time next year, probably about 10 months down the line. Are PSG a bit daft for not taking that, or do they know something that we don't know? Is he going to sign a new contract?
I think it's a tough one. I think this could go horribly wrong, or it could be a stroke of genius. I think my gut feeling is that they're going to try and keep Mbappe there and go with Neymar, Messi and Mbappe, and they're going to try and let him play with them and win the Champions League and sort of let their success keep Mbappe there. I mean, if it doesn't change his mind, then fair enough, and he leaves, and that's a huge blow for PSG. But I think in terms of just the power of the club, I think they're just putting a stance down and saying that, So I think they're hoping that it'll change his mind. But if it doesn't, they could be looking back on this in a couple of months' time and thinking we've really shot ourselves in the foot there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Mike, are you on the same page as Charlie there? Is it? Oh, we've caught him halfway through. but we'll come to it in a sec. How many tops has he got? I can't focus now, Andy. You're gonna have to tell us. You're gonna have to tell us. Mike, remember what I was going to ask you? It was about Mbappe. Go ahead, Andy. What have you got for us there, mate?
Should have been the best, the GOAT ever. Like, if you played PES 5, PES 6, you know about the GOAT. That's Adriano. I think Zanetti said it was his biggest ever career regret was not helping Adriano when he needed it. This has got too far away from deadline day. I kind of put it in the back of my mind when Newcastle started desperately trying to get Hamza Chowdhury before, but and just that Ajax top's nice, mate. Just
okay, yeah, no, I was going to say the Ajax top is absolutely beautiful. To be fair, no arguments from me.
Don't mess with Ajax's change kits.
Yeah, other sports manufacturers are available, of course. But yeah, no, it's a lovely top, Mike. I mean, again, no way to segue back into Mbappe. We're just going to go straight in. What do you make of the deal, mate? Should he have been allowed to go for that money? Should PSG have gone, well, you're not going to stay, let's make some money, or are they going to let him go for free?
Well, they don't have a choice, do they? Essentially, I mean, there's always the argument, isn't there, of player power and all that, but they're very handsomely rewarded, and if you sign up for 5 years, then your employer can keep you there for 5 years, in essence. And it's not like he's hard done to, as he's playing up front with Neymar and Messi next season, and all the rest of the gang they've just signed for free. So they should realistically win the Champions League, and I think from PSG's perspective, especially when you add in the sort of alternative angle that winning the Champions League in the year of a Qatar World Cup would look very good for the owners. It's to what extent they're just playing that gamble that it will all pay off come May, and the finances don't really matter on that basis. I think that probably has a big part to play in it, because 12 months, £220 million, euros, is a massive deal to turn down under any conditions. But it's a gamble on both parts, because if Mbappe goes and picks up a knee injury now in November and then he's out of contract in May, then it's an absolute waste of time for PSG, isn't it? But you can't doubt his ability. He's still only 22 years old, and if he'd have been sold today, he'd have gone for €400 million already in the last 3 or 4 years. So undoubted ability, and I'm sure you're gutted, because I've had Liverpool fans tell me you're signing for you for the last 3 years. I thought that was why you signed up to Nike and all that, but yeah, it's I think it's a big gamble on PSG's part, but well within the rights if the money isn't an issue to them, really.
Yeah, you're right. It certainly doesn't matter to them, but I just think it's just daft, isn't it? It's just daft. Yeah. But I also think, as you say there, like the rumours have been about of Liverpool potentially signing them, and I think, I'm not going to say something stupid, but I am going to say something stupid. I think we're now well in the hunt for Kylian Mbappe on a free, heavy wages, heavy agent fee, heavy signing on bonus, but you don't have to pay 200 million for him. So yeah, you heard it here first. We'll confirm it like mid-Jan. He's signing for Liverpool. That's it. It's done and dusted. No, I think he's Real Madrid bound for free. If I'm honest, he's either Real Madrid bound for free, or he's just trying to squeeze every last bit of money out of PSG for a contract renewal. Very, very quickly catching Lukaku up. If he'd have moved for 200 million, how much did Lukaku go in his entire transfer life? Can't remember, but he's the most expensive footballer in history, isn't he? So I wonder if that would have put Mbappe top of the list. I'm assuming it would have 400 million, and he's only 22, whatever he is.
Still got a while to pick up some more fees as well, hasn't he?
Exactly, yeah. He's going to be one of them, isn't he? Like, he's going to play out at Monaco. He's moved to PSG. He probably would have wanted the deal to come up, and then he's going to move, and then he'll probably sign a 4-year, 5-year contract with Madrid, and then he'll move again, and he's going to play all over the place, and he's good enough. Yeah. Andy, there's another shape behind you, mate. Let's talk.
Right, you're going to have to guess this one. It's the weirdest shit I've ever owned.
Okay, let's go round the room then. Ben, would you like to have a pop at it first?
I missed the question. Sorry, what you saying, David?
Andy's got a shirt behind him. The one on the right. Would you like to have a pop of who it might be?
With the number 10 on it.
Number 7.
Ah, the 7. The 7. Right. Okay. Let's look at those stripes on the side there. Is it? I doubt if it's Newcastle. Rob Lee, Newcastle away shirt from the 90s.
Okay. Don't give us the answer yet, Andy. Don't give us the answer yet.
It's a national.
Charlie, you're
national
looking
shirt,
very, very in depthly at that shirt. Do you want to give us a go?
I mean, before he picked it up, I was going to guess Italy, but I think with the stripes down the side, I don't think I'm going to go for that. It's a tough one, isn't it? It looks. I might
Will
go
we
for
accept
Bosnia.
club or country? Will we accept if it's the correct club or country?
It's a national.
I think I know
national
what
side.
country it is then.
Yeah, I think I was going to guess Bosnia. To be fair, as just
Okay.
out on a whim as a guess.
Go on, Mike.
I was thinking Italy at first, and I don't think Bosnia's a bad shout, but maybe a South Korea away or a Japanese kit. I was thinking at first.
Getting closer.
Getting closer. See, now he's put me off because I seen them stripes and thought Greece. But if he's saying getting closer with South Korea, then that's not going to be right. Did you say Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not Japan. Absolutely nothing going on, by the way. Deadline day, just so you know. This is why we're talking about a shirt. No, I've got no idea. I'm going to stick with Greece and be completely wrong. Wow. Well, there's absolutely no chance any of us were getting that. What's the story behind that?
My uncle travels a bit, so he picked us that up. That is actually, I'm sure that's an extra large man. It's,
are you going to sell it?
Probably. Huh? No,
You're gonna keep it?
It's a funny one for 5 side.
Fair dues, mate. Fair dues, yeah. Rolling up with that, it'll be baffling for most people. Oh, right. Something that I've come across today, which is probably not much of interest to any of you, but there's apparently protests planned at Anfield for the first home game after the transfer window, which is the 18th of September against Crystal Palace. Basically because Liverpool haven't signed any players, which is I'll give you my thoughts in a minute, but I wanted to get your thoughts as a sort of neutral. Obviously, Mike, hatred for Liverpool FC will be blowing through your veins, which is only right. You're an Everton fan. That's how it works. It's the same the other way around, mate. Believe me. Ben, what do you make of these? A supposed protests that Liverpool fans are planning to hold at Anfield? Do you think it's fair that just because they've only signed one player, is that a reason to protest?
I don't really think so. I mean, if you look at it into context, 2 seasons ago they won the Champions League. 3 seasons ago in the Champions League. 2 seasons ago they win the Premier League at a canter. Last season they lose their best player for most of the season. It has a massive effect, and he's now back. So I don't really see what they've got to complain about. Virgil van Dijk being back and being fit is massive for Liverpool, and they haven't conceded a goal yet in the Premier League this season, and it makes all the difference. You're always going to get the goals from up front with the guys up there. The names have escaped me. I'm very tired, but they're going to get the goals that Liverpool will require to shoot them up, and as long as they can keep the clean sheets with the likes of Virgil van Dijk, then they're going to be challenging. It's when they see what City do in the window and what Chelsea do as well, and you're thinking, we're in danger of being left behind. And then obviously Man United with Ronaldo, it's just a case of, well, what are we doing? So we're a bit worried. I think if they look at the bigger picture, I mean, having Van Dijk back is like a brand new star signing for them, and I just think they need to. They don't need to get into September and start worrying about protesting.
Very fair point. Very fair point about Van Dijk, particularly. Charlie, you're a fan of a championship club. Do you look at this and think, how spoiled do you have to be? Like the amount of talent you've got in your team, the amount of money you've spent in recent years, and you're protesting over not signing anyone, or do you think it's fair that they should be protesting because there's no incumbents? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm also a fan of a non-league club. So my local club is Scarborough, and Scarborough FC was run into the ground by poor investment and mismanagement. So now we've got Scarborough Athletic, which is a fan-owned club. So it's totally reliant on fans to build the budget for the season. But at Middlesbrough and a lot of other Championship clubs, League One clubs, League Two clubs, it's just all about balancing the wages and balancing the money that comes into the club with the outgoings, of course. So I don't think people need to be protesting, because the beauty of it is their fans, the financial directors and the accountants are working to make sure that the club is sustainable and continues to be Liverpool Football Club for however many years it's going to be there for. So I think they've just got to be grateful that they're doing the job that they're doing. And if the owners don't want to spend money, they don't want to spend money. That's their own decision. So, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes at clubs which suggests maybe there isn't the money there to spend, or whether there's not the right deals to come. And so I think, leave it to the people who are employed to do that job. And just be grateful that, the club is in such a strong position as Liverpool are.
Okay, fair point. Scott, who was on with us in the last hour, has just commented he thinks Elliott will be like a new signing for Liverpool. I think he's hit the ground running. Mike, I apologise in advance for asking a question about Liverpool. I know it's not what you've came on to talk about, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What do you make of that sort of news, that there's going to be protests at the ground, and particularly how Everton have been restricted in spending money in this transfer window? Does that come into your thinking at all?
I'll try and be as diplomatic as I can, really.
Thanks, mate.
But, it ultimately petulant, isn't it? Just spitting your dummy out of the pram, because teams like Chelsea have signed Lukaku, United have signed Ronaldo and Sancho, and it appears that the big clubs have got the money there to spend, and I think that's ultimately the frustration for Liverpool, because it doesn't help as well with Konate was done so early, because it almost feels like, that was last season's signing, although you've still spent 43 million quid. I think the big disappointment from most of the Liverpool fans I've spoke to is the fact that Wijnaldum wasn't replaced and obviously was allowed to go on a free. But again, as Scott just mentioned, then it brings in, Curtis Jones played a lot last season in a similar role. Harvey Elliott seems to be playing now in that three-man midfield, which I always assumed he'd come in on the wing, or somewhere with a little bit less responsibility. But if Klopp thinks that Curtis Jones or Harvey Elliott can fill that void, then you'd obviously rather promote from within. In terms of the protest, I think it is more a statement of what other clubs have done. As Charlie was saying then, when the current owners at Liverpool came in, Hicks and Gillette were running the club to bankruptcy. So although they aren't the most flashy with money, you don't expect that from American owners in general, they have stabilised the club massively, and that core of players, which in years gone by would have been sold off, and handpicked by Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, in much the same way Wijnaldum has been by PSG. You've kept that core together and then built on it with the likes of Jota, and gradually built a squad around it. So it's a much more gradual process than what other clubs are doing, but you can't say it's not working. So ultimately, I think it's as much Klopp's decision as it is the board. I don't think he's the type to go out and buy 5 or 6 £100 million players in one window. He never did it at Dortmund, and so I don't think that's the way he likes to operate generally.
It was a very lengthy and diplomatic answer from you there, mate, for an Everton fan. Thank you. I appreciate that. Just before I come to you, Andy, just a couple of bits to wrap up. Serge Aurier has officially been released, or, left via mutual consent, to use the correct language, from Tottenham. And Shea Ojo's gone on loan to Millwall. That is the pinnacle of deadline day at the moment. With 10 or 8 minutes left in the window, we're talking about a a player who doesn't even get in anywhere near Liverpool's first team, going on loan to Millwall, and a player leaving his club. That's what it's come to. Andy, your thoughts on this situation at Liverpool before we move on to who's won the transfer window and who's maybe lost the transfer window?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, he's done a lot of business in keeping players at the club. Like Mike said, where in windows before you might have lost like those players like you did by Wijnaldum. I think keeping the majority of your best players on lengthy contracts is probably what you need to do this windows, and you've had. So I don't think you complain, especially with more centre half coverage with Konate coming in. I think Liverpool look good going into the season, and it's good that there's more than just the 2 title contenders this year.
Yeah, certainly. I think, obviously, I've said this a few times. Obviously, I want Liverpool to win the league. We all want our teams to be successful, but there is a part of me also that wants a really tight, interesting title race for the top 4, race for the European places, relegation battle. We all want to see that going into the end of the season. It just makes life a lot more interesting. I pretty much agree with everything each one of you have said. It is a bit daft. And I think what people don't realise is these people are making out that FSG and that are making, are doing basically what the Glazers do at United, and they take all the money out, and that's not how it works. It's not how it works because, okay, we spent 36 million on Konate, but realistically, they've probably spent about 50 million, maybe 60 million when you add in the signing on fee, the bonuses he's going to get paid, the wages he's going to get, the agent fees. And the same goes for all those contracts that Liverpool have done in the last whatever amount of weeks, with Salah still to come, by the way. That costs money. That's not free. So the money's being spent. They've just moved into a brand new training ground. They're doing another stand at Anfield. This money is going back into the club. This is what people don't realise. And I think you alluded to it, Mike, it's about being sustainable. It's about making sure, and you did as well, Charlie, you don't want a club being run into the ground. You look at the likes of Leeds a few years ago, were in just desolate state. We're about to go completely off the face of the earth. So, yeah, bit daft, bit stupid. Another one that Arsenal have officially signed, Takahiro Tomiyasu. I think I've got that right. According to Callum, he's great on Football Manager, so it should be a good signing. So that's another one that we were kind of awaiting on being confirmed. Ademola Lookman's loan move to Leicester is being confirmed. Nothing much else really to go through. So let's go around the room, as we've got about 5 minutes until the window slams shut. Who's been a big winner for you in the transfer window? I'll come to you with this one first, Ben. Which club would you put forward as the number one who's done probably the best business?
This is going to sound a bit self-indulgent. I don't think you can look further than Aston Villa, quite honestly, in the transfer window. As we said, selling their top player, their talisman, who everybody thought was the heartbeat of the club, and replaced him with players of genuine quality, and brought in the one player, which I would say 7 or 8 clubs in the Premier, or fans of those clubs, where signing was announced, Danny Ings, they're like, whoa, where has that come from? We'd have taken Danny Ings in a heartbeat. So in terms of balancing it all up, I think Villa have done very well. And I realise we're short of time here, but one thing I would like to mention as far as spending goes, I think FIFA are poised to nail an English club over FFP. And I think they want to make an example. And I think the Premier League is where they would look to do that. So I think anybody who's thinking of getting upset because they're not spending enough money, I think they need to look at the bigger picture. So in terms of balancing it out, 100 million coming in, quality players coming into the club as well. My team, Aston Villa.
Very fair shout. Very fair shout. We're not running out of time, by the way. Take as long as we want. But yeah, good point. On the FFP thing, I think they missed the boat. I think they had the chance to do that with Manchester City, and they let them squirm the way out of it. So that's probably gone. Charlie, big winner for you?
A winner for me would be Chelsea, I think. I think they've made the right signings at the right time, really, and I think they clearly are really backing Tuchel to go one better this year and to really push on towards the top of the title. So I think Chelsea have had a really, really good window. But I just wanted to mention before you move on to someone else, one of the feel good signings is of that Santiago Muno, I think it is, who signed for Newcastle. I think that is the signing of the window. I think it's absolutely amazing that he has signed, and I just think it's brilliant that he kind of has followed in the footsteps of the movie. So that's probably my feel good signing of the window. But I think Chelsea have probably topped it for me.
I just want to go straight to Andy, head in his hands. I'll come to you in a sec on that one, mate. I'll come to you in a sec. I think Charlie stole your thunder there because that's what you were going to come out with. I'm sure Newcastle are your winner in the transfer window, but we'll see. Mike, for you, mate, who are you putting forward? It can be the same if you want. I'm not going to ask for a different answer. Go for whoever you want, mate.
No, I like the look of quite a few of the. I think Spurs have done good business. United, Chelsea, as Charlie mentioned. I think there's definitely players in there who could all make an impact. And I think I was looking through everyone's signings earlier, and the big six have spent quite a lot of money. Even Arsenal, to that extent, whether Arsenal's signings are great, but the one team that I've been quite impressed with, given where they were, what they had to do, was Palace. To be honest, I think the signings they've brought in are all quite exciting. A big change up from the type that Roy would have brought in as well. And at the start of the summer, I think they had almost a squad full of players out of contract and aging players, and maybe not the profile that you'd want your club to continue to buy. So they brought in Elise from the Championship, who's a really good young player. Guehi, Anderson, Edouard obviously came in today, and I think I think personally Patrick Vieira is a liability, but I don't know whether he actually does anything with those players. But I think over the next 2, 3 to 5 years, that will be a really good foundation for them to build on, basically. And I think in terms of teams who had to really restructure, they've done it as well as any.
Yeah, another fair shout. Another very fair shout. Come on in, Andy. Tell us why Newcastle have won the transfer window, mate. Now, who are you going for?
I think the Premier League as a whole is very much won over this summer. I think it's maybe not the best run league, especially from Newcastle point of view, in the world, but it's certainly best competitively, and the players that have came in terms of team that I think's won it. I think Man United, I mean, Ronaldo was just a cherry on the top, but when you bring in a player like Sancho, who's only just getting to hitting these, really just getting a peak, Varane, who's an amazing centre half, their defence now, I mean, it's between Liverpool, City and Man United for best defence in the league now, and I think they won with Pogba, his performances. He's playing like he does for France now. I think they're going to be. I mean, they're on. They're who my money's on to win the league this season, and thanks to Ronaldo joining, my bet's now up £2. So I'd say Man United.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. You know what? They've made really good business. Manchester United, cannot argue with the business they've done. They've been fantastic. Just so you know, the transfer window has now shut, but I mean, it might as well shut about an hour ago. It just died down, didn't it? Let's face it. I mean, the big news coming out at the moment is that Brighton have loaned someone to the Belgian side. Moises Caicedo's gone on loan. Not that that's of any interest to any of us.
That's what I'm staying up for.
Yeah, that's what you've stayed up for. That's what our viewers are here for. That's the service we provide. So I'm going to try and avoid the same answers that you guys did. I think all very fair shouts. I probably would have picked Chelsea like Charlie did had they signed the centre half. Obviously, that deal for Jules Koundé or whatever his name is fell through. So I'll probably go for Leicester. I think they've made good business. I think they've quietly added some decent. Kai's just commented, wait, Caicedo's gone to who? Thanks for your fake interest there, mate. He's gone to Beerschot in the Belgian top flight. So there you go. Thanks, Kai. I'm going to go for Leicester, as I said. I think they just had, the likes of they lost Fofana to injury before the Community Shield. Sorry, just went out and got Vestergaard, no messing. Ryan Bertrand in as backup is a decent signing. Ademola Lookman in again just gives them more options to play with, and then they've signed a couple of new lads early on, especially Patson Daka, who, I mean, potentially replaces Jamie Vardy. You just get him in a bit early, and he's there to learn from the man himself. Okay, let's go. We'll go reverse way back around. So I'll start with you, Andy. Who's been the big loser? I mean, this is a daft question because I already know what the answer is going to be, but I'll ask it anyway. Who's been the big loser in this transfer window for you?
Us. What I would like to advertise is if any club is after a particularly Brazilian striker, he's an up-and-coming striker at 23, goes by the name of Jordan. If anyone wants to take him for around about the 40 million price that we paid for him, I think you'd be getting a brilliant player for that money. Yeah, just any club that's interested, just pop your offers in. I mean, I'd happily drive him there anywhere in Europe, really, just to make sure he's gone. Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. We're absolutely well. It's a fantastic player for us to bring in, especially after the form he was in when we brought him in from Arsenal on January in the initial loan deal. But for a club, I'll always back a club. But for the size of the club we are, to only spend 25 million and say that's all we've got in the banks, it's embarrassing, really.
And as well, to sign a player that you've had on loan last season basically means you haven't actually improved the squad from last season. You've just kept it the same, which can be a good thing, obviously, but at the same time, no real progression. Just to confirm that Salomon Rondon has confirmed now he's officially an Everton player, Mike. Scott's told us as well. Rondon completed. Before I get your loser of the transfer window, mate, what are your thoughts on that? I know we've kind of gone through it, but what do you make of it now being over the line?
Well, Andy sort of seemed to give him a glowing reference, which, I think he will do the job he's brought in to do. He'll be a good backup to Calvert-Lewin. He's a target man. He's scored a few goals. I don't think he's going to be prolific necessarily, but as Andy said, he's a striker that Benitez gets a lot out of. So, yeah, I'm happy we've done some business. It's a pity we seem to make a 30 million quid bid for someone today from Porto, yet that money wasn't available for the previous 3 months, but I'll leave that one for January. We can expect a 30 million bid for someone in January, clearly.
Well, yeah. I mean, is this the new Arteta money? Where's that 30 million money gone?
Where's the Diaz money?
Yeah, where's the Diaz money gone? Farhad, not Bill.
We're probably paying it over about 20 years, to be honest. So I'm not going to hold your breath.
I mean, to be fair, Man United are paying 15 million over 5 years for Ronaldo, so it's the in thing, mate, isn't it? Go on then, Mike. Give us your big loser from the transfer window.
I think it's difficult to, obviously we've spent even less than Newcastle, but there was sort of an acceptance that the money wasn't there. I think Andy is probably the most disappointed, given obviously the size of the club, the fact that they haven't spent for years, and I think it could be quite a difficult season this season for them, whether they'll go down or not. But you just want to see a bit of ambition, don't you? And at least Gray looks like he's coming and done all right. So I'd probably have to say Newcastle are probably the losers in that sense, just because they haven't really strengthened.
Okay, fair enough. Charlie, are you going to make it 3 from 3?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I think I probably am. I mean, the size of Newcastle United, you'd think that there would be. I mean, they are the biggest club in the northeast, really. So it's hard to see them sort of not really strengthen in the right areas, and I don't know whether that's because Steve Bruce hasn't been given a backing, or or however they look at it. But looking from last season, they've only kind of brought in that one man that was there on loan. So it must be frustrating. But as a Middlesbrough fan, we've been there for plenty of years as well, where we just don't strengthen at all in the window. So fingers crossed that it doesn't come to shoot Newcastle in the foot, and by January they may have to make a couple of sort of signings that might keep them in the Premier League. But fingers crossed for Andy's sake that they'll have a good season.
Fingers crossed indeed. Fingers crossed indeed. Otherwise, it'll be another shirt hanging up behind Andy, and unfortunately, it'll have the little mind symbol on from the championship. Sorry, mate.
Saying that,
Ben,
there's some rubbish beneath us. There's the likes of Arsenal that might.
There is, to be fair. There is, to be fair. Do you know what? There is quite a lot of bad teams in this division, and you might just sneak through it. Ben, your big loser from the transfer window, please. Have we lost Ben?
I think he's on mute.
Potentially or on mute. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know whether he can hear
No,
us.
can you hear me?
There you are, mate. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
there we
I
are.
can hear you
My
now.
mistake.
That's
yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Go on,
Waited in bated breath to give Andy some relief in that I'm not going to go for Newcastle. In many ways, this might surprise people. I'm going to go for West Ham because when you look at what they achieved in terms of league places last season, Europa League is, unless you really strengthen your squad, the Europa League schedule is something you don't really want to have to do unless you really strengthen. If you look at the damage it's done to Wolves over the last couple of seasons, they had an extended run in the Europa League. I can't understand, and you might have touched on this earlier, I can't understand why they haven't managed to get Jesse Lingard in and tied down. I know they've made a signing today, which I saw in the news that was breaking, but I saw them against Leicester. I thought they were excellent. Decent game on Saturday against Crystal Palace in a 2-2 draw. I just worry come March, April time, they really are run out of steam. And I would have liked, if I'd have been a West Ham fan, to have seen more players come in.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair shout. They've made some decent signings, as you say, but that Europa League campaign coming up, it's going to be tough for them with the amount of players they're going to have to rotate and stuff like that. If I was to pick a big loser,
well, if they lose, if they lose Antonio to an injury, they're in big trouble.
Big trouble, yeah, because they haven't got much behind him, certainly. Big losers for me. It's tough. I mean, I know they've made a lot of signings, but I might have to go with Arsenal just because they've pretty much overpaid for everyone that they've bought, and they haven't really got any better. Andy's smiling because I've avoided Newcastle. I mean, Ben White's a good player. Is he £50 million worth of player? I mean, that put a lot of people off. Certainly Liverpool off last summer and the summer before. The ridiculous price tag that was on his shoulders. Similarly to Newcastle, they've brought back a player they had on loan last season in Martin Ødegaard. Doesn't really improve them in any stretch. Just gets that player back in the team. Aaron Ramsdale, 30 million is mental. Absolutely mental. Nothing else to say about that. That is just nuts. And then the other two lads they brought in, don't know anything about them. Could be good. Lokonga and Tavares could be good. Don't know. But out of all them players, yeah, I'm going to have to go to Arsenal. Gentlemen, I think we'll call it a night there. It's been a pleasure. It's another transfer deadline day come and gone. The first one without Jim White on Sky Sports, and I think we're all quite thankful for that. I think he'd had his day. He'd had his 15 minutes. So yeah, thank you to all four of you for joining me. Thank you to all of our other guests as well that joined us throughout the night since 8 o'clock seems like such a long time ago now. Thank you to you who is watching. You'll be able to see more of this kind of stuff on the local TV, Facebook and YouTube pages throughout the week. We've got podcasts across the network for certainly Everton, Newcastle, Liverpool, Manchester United, all sorts going on. And obviously our weekly Box to Box podcast, which was on earlier on today. You can go back and watch that now as well, talking about the international break and stuff like that. But for now, that we'll call it a night till January, and hopefully there might be a little bit more action in the final hour, and we won't have to talk about it. Where's your share from? I think we'll make that a regular feature, Andy, for go forward. But no, thank you for watching, and yeah, we'll see you all again soon. Bye bye for now.